The meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission, the February the 22nd, 2024 meeting. We'll start with our roll call to order. Commissioner Allen.
Present.
Commissioner Franks.
Present.
Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Commissioner Lindsay is present. Commissioner Mann is absent. Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
And Commissioner Williamson is also absent tonight. So the first thing we do at our meetings, there is an opportunity for citizen comments. And this is a time when it's open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern, whether it's on the agenda or not. If you would like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, we ask you just to wait until we get to those items, and I'll kind of walk you through that process then. There are several items, there are several actions that are taken in a row on the same project, and I don't want you to feel like you're compelled to speak to each of the items. The first item on the agenda, there are 4 separate actions. So you can come up and speak to when we open the first one, and I'll kind of leave it to you. But so just wait until we get to that item. I think most of you have identified which projects you want to speak to. So if you have comments you'd like to make sure and fill out a speaker card. You can give it to one of our staff members. And then when the time comes, you come up to the lectern and speak into the microphone, give us your name and address. And then we ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. You can say a lot in 2 minutes time. So when the 2 minutes are up, you will hear Amy. And so when you hear the magic tone, we ask you to kind of zip it up pretty quick. If you don't, I'll call you down. So anyway, so is there any citizens that would like to speak to an item maybe that's not on the agenda? If you want to speak now, you can do that. Otherwise, you'll have your opportunity when your item comes up. I don't see anybody. So the next item is approval of minutes. Consideration of approval of the January 25th, 2024 Planning Commission minutes. Is there a motion for the minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Real fast, Chairman, I apologize. We had some revisions made, so if you could please kindly make sure your motion is for the revised minutes, please. Whoever made that motion. We had to fix a few typos.
Alma?
I'll amend the motion to include the revised minutes.
Okay, so we have a proper motion to approve the revised minutes by Commissioner McLemore and a second by Commissioner Orr. Any other comments or corrections into the minutes? Seeing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann is absent. Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion passes. Next, announcements by staff. Do we have any announcements tonight, staff?
No announcements.
Okay, no announcements. Okay, the next item number 2, is a consideration of approval of items 3 through 10 and items 20 through 22, which will be on our consent agenda tonight. Does anyone wish to pull an item off of the consent agenda? Seeing none, those are items that will be handled by one motion and second and vote, and there will be no discussion on the individual items. So is there a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Allen. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Orr. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore
Aye.
and Commissioner Orr
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson is absent. Okay, that motion passes. So that defines the consent agenda. The next item is item number 11. And item number 11 will actually have, this is one of those where we have 4 separate actions that'll take place. So we'll go ahead and start. This is consideration of Resolution 2024-05, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the annexation of property located west of Franklin Road and south of South Berry's Chapel Road at 2247 South Berry's Chapel Road by the city of Franklin, Tennessee. We'll start with staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting a plan of services for the property located at 2247 South Berry's Chapel Road. The plan of services outlines how infrastructure will need to be provided to serve the property of 35.95 acres that is requesting to be annexed. The draft plan of services is included in your materials, and it details no major concerns in providing infrastructure and services to the property. However, connectivity to the parcels to the southeast of the annexation request is important to the future development of property in the city of Franklin's urban growth boundary. No additional personnel or equipment will be necessary for emergency services or sanitation. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2024-05. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next in time for public comment on this item, so I have a number of cards. I'll call your name. I'll call about 4 at a time, and you can kind of queue behind the lectern and get ready. So we'll start off with Brandon Baisden, then Tony Blaine, Slayton Garman, and Joan Bledsoe. We'll start off with those, so if you'd come up.
Out of order, Tony Blaine stepped in front of Brandon Baisden.
Okay.
Just haven't heard all of the details of the proposed development that would go in behind BGA, but I'm a homeowner, Tony Blaine, 1530 Amesbury Lane, and there's a great amount of concern by homeowners. I don't want to speak or pretend to speak for all 68 homeowners, but I think all of them have a lot of concern about creating a potential throughway in the future that goes all the way from Berry's Chapel through the new subdivision, through the preserve at Echo Estates where I live, through Echo Estates, past BGA, onto Ernest Rice Lane, and all the way out to Mac Hatcher. We've all seen how busy it is all around BGA, and we're worried that it's going to become a speedway through there. And very concerned for safety. There are a lot of children walking on those roads. There aren't sidewalks in front of all the homes that people are walking around. And so people are walking and jogging on Echo coming into our subdivision. And we're very concerned about opening that up because people will cut through there, just as they do pretty much, all through that area right now. I mean, there's a lot of traffic that comes down past out of Fieldstone Farms and all the way down to Mac Hatcher. So we don't want to open that up from Berry's Chapel Road all the way through there. And I, without having heard all the details, I can't speak to all of it, but I just want to express that there's a lot of angst that's building up amongst our neighbors. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brandon Baisden. I live in Echo Estates. Mirror a lot of what he said. Basically, my main concern, and I'm actually the president of the HOA of Echo Park, and some of the residents in our neighborhood have got concerned about the increased traffic with the lack of sidewalks on Echo Lane and part of Alpine Court. And if there is open access, it's dangerous as it is, and there will be increased traffic, and a big safety concern if there's more traffic on there with the lack of sidewalks, because there is a lot of foot traffic on there. Not just kids walking to school, but residents exercising, walking on a daily basis, several times a day even. So, you know, if there is going to have to be access to the development into Echo Estates, or the preserve at Echo Estates, I think we've got to do emergency access only. So, and potentially add sidewalks as well. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Slayton Gorman, echo the same concerns you just heard from the other ones, but as 40 years in Williamson County, 20 in Franklin, this city council, the ones before it, have been very diligent in trying to make a walking community. You have a walking neighborhood. Kids are walking to school, kids are biking to school. If we have a thoroughfare through there, you create risk to them because, as they've said, there's not sidewalks the whole way. There's a lot of old neighborhoods that'll connect. So there needs to be a lot of thought through what we tried to do in Franklin and what we're trying to do now. So as you think through this, that's what I want to put, and I'm sure we'll have other information as it kind of goes, but that's kind of what I want to put on the table as you guys think through this.
Great. Thank you.
I'm Joan Bledsoe, and I'm almost 90 years old, so I've been around a lot longer than all of you. And I think we've pretty well ruined Williamson County as I knew it already. But I live on, my house actually faces Franklin Road, but my drive goes all the way back to South Berry's Chapel. We have a traffic problem already. It's terrible. I wait sometimes as long as 10 minutes to get out on the highway. And it's really not getting better, it's getting worse. Sometimes during the afternoons when it's work time, they line up all the way back past Mac Hatcher, and it's really impossible to get out. We've just got too many people here already. But I think that if they do develop this, how I don't understand something. Maybe you can answer this for me. How does this annexation take place? Do you talk to the county first, or what happens?
No, typically an annexation is done by the request of the owner of the property.
Just the owner of the property?
Yeah, and it's handled by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
And the county can't reject it?
Not as a rule, no.
I've never quite understood that. I know Spring Hill took part of Thompson Station way back, and I never did understand how that happened. But anyway, I just feel like that we should be more careful about the people that have been here a long time and kind of respect what they need. And definitely we have to watch the speeding on South Berry's Chapel. We've got one fellow that comes by every afternoon about 4:30 at 60 miles an hour down Berry's Chapel Road. And there are several others that do the same thing. So please try to consider all that.
Thank you. Next, Cal Vinsel, Dr. Brian Berger, Keith Cassray.
Yeah, good evening, Cal Vinsel. I live at 2267 South Berry's Chapel Road. I guess my big comment or concern is how does this really fit into the overall Envision Franklin plan? South Berry's Chapel is in an area known for scenic beauty. It's large lots. This is a neighborhood. As far as I know, there's not a neighborhood like it on the road. And specifically, Berry's Chapel Road is called out as a special consideration in the plan. It says one sentence, it says development fronting Berry's Chapel Road should be on lot sizes comparable to those that are currently exist along the road. And if you look at the tracts of property connected to this, they're 20 acres, 5 acres, 21 acres, large properties, and this is packing in 16 homes, to my understanding, in a small area, which takes away from really the seemingly scenic beauty of a really area that's been recognized in the plan as something that's of value to the county and city. So that's one, is how does that fit in, and what precedent does that set for future development? So we have other 20-acre tracts. Does that mean more neighborhoods are going to be popping up? The second concerns traffic, and I'll echo what the Echo Estate said too, but also on South Berries, if you're not going to cut through there, then you're sending it down a 2-lane rural street with no shoulder. Franklin intersection is not signalized. There's no signal. There's no turn lanes. And it's a safety issue, as is. You wait 5 to 10 minutes, as Ms. Bledsoe said, to get out regularly. I take my kids to school every day. I sit there 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. I live right at the intersection. So you're going to be putting in more houses and setting a precedent for more development in Franklin area that can't handle it, and taking away from the beauty that's really outlined in the Envision plan. So I'm having a hard time understanding how this fits into the overall plan. And I'm interested to hear how that really does, and what your all's thoughts are, and how that would meet the standards that have already been outlined. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dr. Brian Berger. I'm in Linwood Downs. I'll echo what the prior two people said. The lot sizes along that road are all large lots. There are 2 adjoining properties and Tom T. Hall's property across the street, which are very large lots. You're already going to add 30 to 40 cars to this road, which can't sustain it. If you add a left-hand turn lane that only takes care of 3 or 4 cars, there's no shoulders, there are ditches on the sides of the road. You have a light at Mallory Station, you have a light at Legends. Even if you put a light in at South Berry's Chapel, to get onto those roads, you wouldn't have enough room because of the lights adjoining in order to make the turns. And already we're waiting 5 to 10 minutes to make left-hand turns. If you put 3 or 4 developments at the end of South Berry's Chapel Road, those people are going to be going left and right. It's not like when you're further up and you can turn onto Mallory Station and onto Linwood Way and go that way. So you're going to be using that as an egress for all those cars going left or right. They're not, unless they're going up to Hillsborough, they're not going the other way. And this is not in keeping with the size lots that are there. So you have a big traffic problem, and you have a problem with consistency along that road, and that's going to spiral out of control. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Keith Casari, 2181 South Berry's Chapel. Kind of go along with everything else that's been stated tonight. South Berry is just not capable of holding that many more cars. We're seeing more and more accidents over the years, and I've been there 25 plus years. They're not slowing down. I know we annexed this property and we only put 16 on, but as you can see from the map, there's a lot more land there, and I'm sure that they're not going to stop just on these 16 homes. There'll be more coming thereafter. So I want you just to think about the beauty of Franklin, and what we all love about this place are these small country roads that are beautiful. There's not a weekend that goes by where there's not probably 25, 30 or more cyclists that go down this road. It's already dangerous for them going down. As stated, there are no shoulders. So it's that, and also it was stated that the breakdown of the 1 acre lots, all of us have had to purchase out there and have 5+ acres by Williamson County. Putting 1 acre lots out there is going to be diminishing the people's value of their homes and their lots that are already invested in this community and have been paying for that. So I ask that you consider all those situations as well. I know we want growth, but sustainable growth where we can, maintain the quality of life for everybody would be great.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay.
I didn't fill out a card because I usually get real upset about this. I want to address the traffic.
Can you give us your name?
Oh, I'm Connie Frazier. I live on South Berry's Chapel, a 1/10 of a mile off of Franklin Road. To pull out on Franklin Road right now is on a wing and a prayer. And unless you're pulling out between 12 midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning, you just better pray and hope for the best. And I have tried to let people out, people stop, people whip around me on Franklin Road. There's going to be a wreck there. Several years ago, we asked about a traffic light. We were told unless someone was killed there, you would not consider one. We've had no volunteers for that, and we have asked. And I have Well, we have. I just can't imagine. I look at the wetlands down there and the beauty of that, and I wonder that has this man even considered what it's going to be like? When we had the 100-year flood here, water was over. South Berry's Chapel was closed down by Tom T. Halls and this land that this man wants to build on. And I just hope that you consider the lives of the people there and the beauty of that road. I cannot tell you how many people tell me what a beautiful road that is. So thank you.
Thank you.
And if this guy gets this, not only does he need to pay for a traffic light, he needs to put in turn lanes on Franklin Road and South Berry Chapel.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm Meredith Coomer. I also live on South Berry's Chapel. Moved there for 16 years ago for the very solace and refuge that it provided. It's a very beautiful, tranquil, peaceful environment. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. This is my home. And there's a lot of wildlife. There's a lot. Mr. Langham has several horses. Linwood Downs has horses. Neighbors across the street have, there's a lot of horses, and they get out sometimes. And it's a lot of wild turkeys, a lot of wildlife, bobcats, things that you don't see in all the other neighborhoods. They're there, foxes, all kinds of things. I'm even looking for a cougar every now and then. But not really. But one day I even was coming down a hill, up the hill, down the hill, there's a turn, and there was a horse right in the middle of it. And literally there are people going 60 miles an hour already. And if someone were going that fast, cresting a hill, you know, coming around the corner, they would have hit that horse. And, you know, this is a community where people get out and they help the animals, you know, little turtles, you know, all the time. And that's even gotten dangerous now to do. But it truly is a refuge from all of the craziness that's going on around town. It's a unique neighborhood. It is very large lots. That's one of the reasons we chose to move there. We live on a hill, and I mean, the views are, you don't find them. They're there where we live, you know, and they're gonna be diminishing and going away with all the developments that are going on. So, yeah, I know that many people of us are here because we want to fight for our neighborhood. We're a community. We love each other. I went and knocked on people's doors to get them to come, you know, unafraid, because I knew that they would welcome the same ideas. So I just hope that you guys will understand this is a big loss if you guys were to let it pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there someone here representing the applicant?
Hello, I'm Troy Gardner with Reagan Smith Associates. I'm the landscape architect and land planner. I was really prepared more to speak to the development plan tonight, and I think our presentation for that will sort of address some of the citizen concerns that we've heard. But I would just say and make a note to the Envision Franklin. I think that was brought up. This area is large lot residential, which I believe we're within keeping with this plan. We're proposing 1 acre lot minimums, and we have some areas that are 2 acre lots that are within the hillside overlay. So I know that there's also a focus in Envision Franklin about preserving environmental features. So that's something that we've also looked at doing, staying off of the hillsides and the steep slopes, being sensitive to the wetlands and the streams and so forth. So I think we can address and we can address more of these issues as we get into the development plan, but I just want to say that about this part.
Okay. So and we're looking for a motion, in this case, would be recommendation to the board, mayor and alderman. Is there a motion on this item?
They're asking for annexation, correct?
No,
This is a resolution to adopt a plan of services.
this is plan of services only.
I'll make a motion to approve.
You have a motion to approve.
Planning services only, yeah.
Okay, a motion to approve by Commissioner Franks and Scott Harrison.
Yes.
Is there any discussion?
Is all the property around this still in the county? On this particular, so this is the first annexation on this particular property on?
But this is an annexation. This is
planning
planning
services,
This is
okay.
only planning services.
But everything else surrounding is in the county, right? Is that right, Joey?
No,
It does connect to existing city limits,
Oh, okay,
but to the north and east and west directly is still within the county.
okay. No, thanks. Okay.
Okay, other questions? So we have a proper motion for approval. With
recommend,
second?
recommend
Recommendation.
approval.
Tabama.
Recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Alderman. Okay, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr. And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson's absent. That motion passes. Item number 12 is consideration of Resolution 2024-06. This is a resolution to annex two properties consisting of 35.95 acres located west of Franklin Road and south of South Berry's Chapel Road at 2247 South Berry's Chapel Road and adjoining the city limits within the northern part of the Franklin urban growth boundary. So, staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is contiguous to the city limits and is within the city's urban growth boundary. The property was identified as a long-term annexation capability area due to the limited developable area remaining, the topography, and the large lot development pattern that is expected to remain. The property being considered is within the large lot residential design concept as defined by Envision Franklin, which states that development in the large lot residential design concept reflect the established character of existing neighborhoods and often provides a transition between city and county subdivisions. New development should have a minimum lot size of 1 acre or more to fit contextually with surrounding neighborhoods. Neighborhoods should be designed around natural features to highlight forested areas, hillsides and hilltops, streams, and tree rows. An accompanying zoning and development plan is also included on this evening's agenda. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 2024-06. Thank you.
And that's recommendation of approval to Board of Mayor and Alderman. Okay. So is there anyone from the public that hasn't spoken to this item yet? Okay, seeing none. The applicant again. This is for an ordinance to zone. No, I'm sorry. This is for the a resolution to annex two properties. Any further comments by the applicant? Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve, to recommend annexation to Board of Mayor and Alderman. Second.
May I ask, we were talking about annexing 35.95 acres
Right.
Yes.
to the annex.
This is two parcels totaling 35.95 acres. So we have a motion to approve, to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Alderman by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none by roll call, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Item number 13 is a consideration of ordinance 2024-09. This is now an ordinance to zone 35.95 acres, planned PD 0.30 district, and Hillside Hillcrest Overlay, HHO district, and to rezone 16.66 acres from residential 1 or R1 district to planned PD 3.0.30 district for the property located west of Franklin Road and south of South Berry's Chapel Road at 2247 South Berry's Chapel Road. This is the preserve at Sheridan PUD. Staff?
Thank you. The subject property, including land currently within and outside of the city limits, consists of 52.61 acres and is currently zoned MGA1 in the county and R1 in the city. Envision Franklin places this parcel into the large lot residential design concept. The accompanying development plan proposes 16 single-family residential lots measuring from a minimum of 1 and up to 2 acres in size, giving an overall density of 0.3 units per acre. The zoning as proposed is consistent with recommendations of Envision Franklin and maintains the larger lots that are already established in the subdivisions in the area. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 2024-09. Thank you.
Again, we're looking for a recommendation to BOMA. So is there a motion on this item? For this is a motion to rezone, to zone.
Public comment.
Speak on the
Public
last
comments.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
just,
only on this.
Since these items are going to go through as far as annexation, I plead with the board to make 5-acre minimums. These are not in keeping with the houses along South Berry's Chapel Road. There are no lot sizes there of this size along there. This is going to set a precedent for all the properties around it, which is going to create a tremendous problem along that road. And I urge the board to create 5-acre minimums for these houses, which is more in consistency with what's there right now, which fits the building plan and the proposal, that it matches what's around the current existing developments.
thank you. Okay. Any further comments by the applicant? No. Okay, do we have a motion on this item?
We're rezoning it, and then our next item after that is
This,
the plan, right?
yeah,
Item 14 is the development plan.
We're in the development.
That's where
Yeah, we're
the
in the-
discussion's gonna come in, but I'm make a motion to approve this.
Chair, could we just, for
Wait a minute.
clarification, ask if there's more public comments? I just want to make sure we've opened up public
Okay.
comment.
yeah.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. Does anyone else from the public wish to speak to this item?
Yeah.
Okay, please come forward.
Sue McKenzie. I live at 2237 South Berry's Chapel Road, right next to the property. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but this is going pretty fast, and it looks like it's, anyway. My major concern is being next to that property, it's a swamp beside me. It's beautiful wetland. We have deer and turkeys and, you know, all the animals that they talked about. But when it rains, and it doesn't have to rain hard, creeks form behind my property, all beside it, and it goes down to this ditch that goes to a pond. But there's like 5 houses that are planned to be built in that area. And it would be a shame to change that wetlands to whatever would become of that. I did talk to the developer because I was concerned about what that would do to my property. When you build that up to try to get rid of the water, would it come on my property? And he reassured me it wouldn't, but anyway, that's a concern of mine, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments on this item? Yes, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Carrie Lundy. I live at 2139 South Berry's Chapel Court, which is right off of the road. We've lived there almost 30 years. And I just want to, one more time, it seems like this is just sailing through with not much discussion, but I just would encourage you to know that we have put our trust in you as our elected leaders to be guardians of our treasure that we have here. You know, been given such a gift of such a beautiful area, and once it's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. And I know, you know, you think, what's the big deal? It's only 16 houses, but just one ship at a time, we're seeing this beautiful treasure of land disappear before our eyes. So I just encourage you to please think about that when you vote. Also, I feel like the residents around were not really given notice of this. The few people that we've talked to didn't know anything about this, and so I feel like people haven't been given a chance to voice their concerns either. So I just encourage you to just take a minute, and it's okay to say no, or it's okay to say not now, but just thank you for considering.
Yes, sir.
Stan, I'm just saying another thing. I agree with kind of what the other resident on Southbury said. There is nothing there, 1 or 2 acres. We're all 5+. He may think that it's appropriate for 1 or 2 and it's gonna be beautiful, but you can see all the future developments all around this are all gonna be 1 and 2s again. That impacts more than just his 16 homes. It impacts a lot of us that have invested in this community and want what's best. And as was just shared, you guys represent us. These are new people that don't live here possibly, that, you know, are gonna be moving in. I mean, come on. I feel like this is selling through too, and I'm hoping you're listening to us. As was stated, nobody had any notice. Saw a posted sign up at my mailbox today notifying me that this was happening tonight. Thank goodness, or else I wouldn't have been here. So can this be delayed and we get some more public comment? I came with 5 or 4 other people saying they couldn't make it tonight, but please voice the concerns of, you know, traffic and lot size, and they wish they could have been here. So please, I just ask you to delay or reconsider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Andrea Lux, and I live in Linwood Downs, and I just want to echo what everybody else is saying. I think this is going really fast. I found out about this, the signs went up last week, and I started watching the January 4th presentation on this, and I was shocked to find out the density of this project for this area. As everybody else has said, these existing lots are much larger than this. This just seems so out of character. These lots should be a lot larger than this, and if you're going to do this, this is just sailing through. So I just wanted to just plead with you again to consider that. And also, I wanted to also let you know that I did get this notice just today, and I noticed that people that were 500 feet from the project were notified, but nobody else. I mean, this is a 36-acre project, so what is the scope of that? A few homes of people were notified. If we could just slow down so we could have others as well. I know there's other people out there that want to speak on this. So I just hope that you take that into consideration, and I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Can you address, what is the purpose of annexing this? What's the plus side of that?
The land was perked up.
Oh.
Mary Coomer again, Southbury Chapel. Yes, so I was the one that alerted people, and I only knew about it myself because Wednesday I was coming home from taking my son to school, and I just happened to see the sign. And it said meeting on a very small 12 by 12 inch sign that was closer to the ground than not. And I only saw it because I saw the big word annexation, but it only said meeting on this very small sign. I only called and found out on Wednesday and then started telling people. I made the signs last night and I posted them. And everybody I spoke to had no clue that this was going on. So I am also asking, please, could y'all slow it down and give a broader span of notice and a bigger net for the whole neighborhood? Our neighborhood starts at Southbury's Chapel Road in Linwood, where it starts going up the hill, Southbury's Chapel Road, all the way down to Franklin. So there are probably, I don't know, maybe 100 total, including everything in Linwood Downs. So there's a lot of people that need to know, and I most certainly didn't reach 100 people today. So if y'all would please reconsider slowing down. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Just one thing to add. So the two properties adjacent to this.
Just give
are
us
the
your
old-
name again.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cal Vinsel, 2267 South Berry's Chapel Road. The two adjacent tracts are on the order of 20 acres. And I just want you to understand that this does open Pandora's box to developing this whole section. The next person that comes in with a large sum of money is going to buy this, and they have precedent to just annex it in and do the next one. So this is just a slippery slope for this scenic, natural beauty that is so well outlined in the Envision Franklin, but this doesn't seem to be upholding it. And I'll also say I was not notified of this. I'm not very far from this. I'm a stone's throw away, right around the corner. I had no idea till tonight, till I was notified. So I'm going to echo the same sentiments. Can we slow this down, open up more discussion and public comment to possibly matching the character of the nearby properties? 5 acres, the other gentleman said, seems more reasonable than packing in 1 acre lots. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, what do we know about public notice and public outreach on this? Yeah, sure.
So we, Troy Gardner, landscape architect with Reagan Smith. So we did send out notifications following the city's process. And we've done that all the way throughout the whole process for the neighborhood meeting, for all of the things that are on this evening's agenda. So, I think we've.
Those were sent by mail? Is that?
Yes, sir.
And you say you did it in accordance with our process. What? Do we know?
Yes,
500 feet.
the process is that we send mailers, the applicant sends mailers to property owners within 500 feet of the property.
Right.
That is per the zoning ordinance.
Order, come on.
And as an additional consideration, we post a sign, that's not per state law, but we do that as a consideration. We post a sign
State law.
prior to this meeting notifying folks.
Okay.
Right. That number of acres.
I would also say, speaking to the zoning, the lot is currently zoned, the one lot that's in the city is currently zoned R1, which has a minimum size of 30,000 square feet. We're proposing 1 acre and 2 acre lots, so substantially larger than what is currently zoned for the
Is that
site.
zoned by the county?
No, sir. In the city, there's one
The portion
parcel.
that's in the city?
Yes, sir. The southern parcel is already in the city.
Yep.
And it's zoned R1, which is a 30,000 square foot minimum. Also, as I spoke to earlier, the Envision Franklin calls this out as large lot residential, which guides you to using 1 acre and 2 acre lots within the hillside overlay, which is exactly what we're doing. And then to speak to, I think some people are concerned with the speed that the process is moving at. We've been working on this for a while. We've had a neighborhood meeting in January. We had this meeting tonight, and there's still 3 BOMA readings to go. So there's still time along the way for input.
Okay.
How many,
Go ahead.
how many houses are in the city of Franklin annexed area now? So part of that land is already annexed, correct?
It's already in the city.
Part's already in the city, correct. And so we're adding the northern 2 parcels will come into the city.
And of that, how many homes are slated for that particular area?
I don't know that I have it broken out.
Okay, so then it's in the next agenda item? Would it show? up?
Sure, we have 16 total for
Okay.
all 3 parcels, yes.
Thank you.
And we'll give a larger presentation for
Okay,
that.
thank you.
So for the neighborhood meeting, who was notified? The 500 feet people as well?
I'm sorry, what was your question,
The
Alma?
neighborhood meeting, were the people within 500 feet notified of the neighborhood meeting?
We have a consistent 500 feet for our notification process, yes.
No. I'm saying, was there a neighborhood meeting? where-
There's public notice for the,
Right.
yes,
And people within 500
Public
feet were the
notice.
ones that got the notice.
correct,
So all the others did not. They were
Correct.
not part of the neighborhood meeting.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Chair.
Mr. Harrison.
I don't know if you know this answer or not, but do you know how many letters went out within the 500-foot range? Okay.
I also
Okay, I
would like,
understand.
Commissioner Allen?
I also would like to be clear, because I think when we're making our motions that we move to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. There will be a public hearing at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in which everyone gets a chance to speak. They make laws and regulations in the city of Franklin. So when we move tonight and make approvals, it is not the final say. So the Board of Mayor and Aldermen gets the final say on these. I just want to be clear on that.
That's good,
Right.
thank you.
Yes, Ann?
I just wanted to ask, were the people in Echo Estates and Echo Preserve, were they notified also?
If they're within 500 feet, yes, they were.
Right.
Do we have a motion?
One of those residences
There's a
has no
motion on
one
the floor.
living there. And
There's a
it-
motion on the
It is
floor.
within the 500 feet.
There's no motion.
Okay.
Oh, I think
All
there's
right.
a motion on the floor.
There's
There's
no
not a
motion.
motion. Oh, no discussion.
Okay. Do we have a motion for this item?
Oh, no motion. No discussion. Yeah, we gotta stop.
Yeah, I don't think we have a motion yet,
No
right?
discussion.
Yeah, we opened it back up for public comment because I think there was confusion about not being able to
Oh,
hear.
okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
now we're ready for a motion.
Okay. So would somebody like to make a motion on this item?
We gotta hush.
Number 13.
Number 13.
Item number 13, this is an ordinance to
I'll make a
zone,
motion to approve.
Number 13.
and this recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and
Recommend
Aldermen.
approval.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Franks. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any
Discussion.
further discussion?
So I do have, so we were saying that now that let me make sure I'm right, that instead of 1 acre, it's gonna be 0.3 units per acre? Is that where we're?
For the
okay, so-
entire development.
For the entire development?
That's the
Okay.
density of
If we
it.
take all of the acres, okay.
The
so
lots will be
16.
1 acre or 2 acres. And we
Okay.
can go into that more with the plan itself.
Okay. so
On the
we'll use
next
the
item.
services. Okay, I just was, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any further, I'm sorry, we're into deliberation, so. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, our roll call then. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr. Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and that motion passes. So the next item is item number 14. This is a consideration of Resolution 2024-07, a resolution approving a development plan for the Preserve at Sheridan PUD subdivision with one modification of development standards for connectivity for the property located west of Franklin Road and south of South Berry's Chapel Road, located at 2247 South Berry's Chapel Road. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant has submitted a development plan for the Preserve at Sheridan PUD subdivision, which proposes 16 single-family residential lots on 52.61 acres. Envision Franklin places this parcel into the large lot residential design concept. Envision Franklin states that these areas reflect the established character of existing neighborhoods and often provides a transition between city and county subdivisions. New development should have a minimum lot size of 1 acre or more to fit contextually with surrounding neighborhoods. The plan as submitted includes lots that range from 1 to 2 acres in size, and it also includes green space to protect natural and historical assets, as well as a neighborhood amenity center. There is one modification of standards request with this plan. The applicant is requesting to remove the required vehicular connections to the parcels along the eastern boundary line of the property. Section 9.5.1B of the zoning ordinance requires that street connections, street stubs, or internal drives shall be provided in every direction. There are 2 eastern access points required to connect to the 2 parcels along the eastern boundary. After reviewing the submittal, staff can support removal of the eastern connection to the northern parcel due to the location of the stream and proximity to South Berry's Chapel Road. For the eastern connection to the southern parcel, staff will support a modification of standard with the following conditions: that the right-of-way for a future road is dedicated, the future road is pre-graded to subgrade, and a sign is installed at the end of the cul-de-sac stating, "This roadway shall be extended per the authority of the city of Franklin." Staff recommends approval with conditions of MOS number 1, and staff recommends approval with conditions of the overall development plan and resolution 2024-07. Thank you.
And that's recommendation of approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Approval with conditions.
All right, okay. Okay, is there any further public comment that anybody wishes to make to the development plan?
So I have to go back to the notification. 500 feet, I'm looking at a letter that the only reason I am looking at it now is because my husband was able to find it online and send me a link to look at it. And I then provided it to everybody else that also did not know about this. It says on here, a letter dated December 21st, 23, that there's going to be a meeting coming up virtual just for information only on January the 4th at 5 p.m. And it says, why are you receiving this letter? The proposed project is within 500 feet of your property. Well, from my front door to the end of our driveway, that's 500 feet in the area that we live in. These are large properties, at the minimum 5 acres. There are a couple that are smaller than 5 acres, and that's because they were grandfathered in. But this is a protected area. It's outside of the city limits, and it is protected to be 5 acres, one home on 5 acres. And so literally, our driveway is 500 feet. We most certainly didn't get this letter. Anyone that I spoke to today did not get this letter. No one knew about it at all. The sign that they're referring to that is posted, there's one sign that's probably this big. It says annexation. Then there's a second sign that's about literally 12 by 12. At the bottom of it says there's a meeting. Doesn't give you a date, it just gives you a phone number. If I had not happened to go that way yesterday, taking my son to school, I would have missed it. We all would have missed it. Nobody knew. We had no idea. 500 feet from that property is Tom T. Hall's address and the next door neighbors. As somebody else said, one of those neighbors is an abandoned home. Nobody knew. We had no clue. So I just wanted to reiterate that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Tony Blaine again. I heard the comments about connectivity to the east and removing those items, but connectivity to the west that's on the drawing that I've got says proposed road to western property line, which would then presumably go through a property into our subdivision, which creates that throughway that we all talked about that'll run dozens, if not 100 cars a day through Amesbury to Echo and down to BGA. So I'm just concerned if this goes through as proposed, we are going to have a new throughway that's going to look, a lot like what we've got on the other side of our subdivision, or coming down out of Fieldstone Farms and on Spencer Creek. So I just don't want that to go unnoticed. Unless I'm mistaken, I think that we're saying something about taking away connectivity to the other side, which I can't even envision on here. But we didn't say anything about what goes to the west and into the preserve at Echo Estates. Is there still a plan to stub a road toward Echo Estates? And what is the plan on that? What's the intention with that road? Be it a paved road eventually or a emergency access, which I don't understand how that would work. We're gonna have a 2-track road running in there. We'd like some clarity on what the plan is about connecting into our subdivision. and running, potential traffic through there. I guess that's what I'm concerned about, and admittedly confused. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jan Kephart. I live in the Preserve at Echo Estates, and I was on that meeting in January. There were 3 or 4 people on it. We were notified there were 4 or 5 people on my street, and my house backs up directly to that property, but there was no notification. None of our other neighbors knew about it, and there were no signs. So that's a really huge concern, and I agree with everyone that's spoken about that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm David Langhans, and I own the property next door to this development. And I'm not opposed to development, but I'm opposed because of the road situation there. It's just hard to get to. And when he came to me, the way I knew about the meeting, not the fellow that owns the property, but supposedly whoever he hires to look after it, called me and stated that they had no intent of developing that property, that his mother and his son and himself were going to build homes on that property. Well, I now find out they can't build it because there's no way to perk for the land because it's all swamp land. Years ago, the Taylors owned that, and they came through there and put tiles that whole field to try to get it so they wouldn't be stuck into that property. Now, I realize you can widen the creek and do a lot of things to change those things. But as far as me and the property going across to the other developments, I own that piece between each of the road stop on both sides there. And I don't have many more years to live, but I can almost guarantee you that that's not going to happen unless y'all make it happen, that there'll be a road coming across there. That's my home. I own 100 acres right there, and I have no intent of living there. And the only big concern I have about this whole project, he's a nice fella, and I was impressed with his conversation, but I don't know where all this development came from. And if you notice on his plans that he sent out, he also stated to me that he was going to have a athletic facility. And if you notice, you see the building on the back of the property where he could have, for people to come over and enjoy themselves and have this big indoor arena and everything. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. But it is on the plans, and he did state to me that that was happening. So, of course, I appreciate y'all, and it's a big challenge, but the road is the biggest thing, not the development, because I'd love to sell mine off for that amount of money that he too, but I have no intent of it, no plans on it for the future. I'm going to live and die there, and then, which is a very short period of time, but with life the way it goes. But I appreciate any consideration that you give to that.
All right, thank you, sir.
My name is Knut Koschel. I live at 1161 Echo Lane. Want to echo everything everyone else has mentioned about traffic and the concern for additional traffic through there. Would like you to consider one thing. There's a unique situation that Battleground Academy, which is situated right at the southern portion of this property, has hundreds of children there daily. Having additional traffic on Echo Lane would certainly expose the property even further. One of the things that is nice about Battleground Academy being in that location and the neighborhood of Echo is that it is pretty single entry from a protection area. So additional traffic would certainly be difficult to withstand for the neighborhood beyond the fact that we don't have sidewalks. There's already not street lights for a section of it. There are some challenges there, but certainly to protect the school also. So emergency access, I could understand if it had to come down to that at some point. We want to just make sure and understand not everyone will adhere to emergency access gate. So there are still going to be people who try to cross those barriers. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public comment period. Does the applicant have any further comments to make on this item?
Again, Troy Gardner with Reagan Smith Associates, and I also have Josh Lee with Thompson Burton here tonight. We have a presentation we can go through. I think we'll answer quite a few questions.
Okay.
And I know you guys have heard all of this at the joint conceptual workshop, and I kind of want to reorient everyone to the project and kind of refresh everyone's memory. So obviously, this site is located along South Parish Chapel Road, north of BGA, east of Echo Estates. The southern portion is currently in the city. The northern portion is in the county, but it's in the urban growth boundary, and it's all adjacent to the city boundary as well. Oops. This area is in the large lot residential design concept for Envision Franklin, and I think you'll see as we go through this that we did try to follow that and use that as a guiding path for us as we laid out this neighborhood. I do want to highlight, as it says there on the screen, one of the major components of the large lot residential is that neighborhood should be designed around natural features to highlight forested areas, hillsides and hilltops, streams and tree rows. So there's this goal of preserving the existing natural features, which I think is something else that we were able to accomplish with this plan. As I mentioned earlier in one of my earlier comments, the southern portion of the site, which is already in the city, is zoned R1, which has a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet. Obviously, we're rezoning to 1 and 2 acres. Looking at some of the natural features here, you see that the areas that are shaded blue are the streams and their associated buffers. The areas in green are the wetlands and their associated buffers. We have some steep slopes shown in the red and yellow shading, and the hillside overlay and 500-foot hillside overlay buffer are shown in like a dash purple. They're kind of at the bottom side of the property on this view. And so kind of taking all that into consideration, this is how we got to our plan that you see before you tonight. It's a 16-acre, 16 single-family lots on 58 acres. So as we've been mentioning, it's about 0.3 dwelling units per acre. Again, 1 acre minimum lot size outside of the hillside overlay buffer and 2 acre minimum lot size within the hillside overlay buffer. Just to kind of give you some context for that, the Echo Estates neighborhood has lots that are between 0.6 and 1 acre. So we are same size or larger than that neighborhood currently has. The access points, we have 2 access points to the north that would be onto South Parish Chapel Road. We have 1 stub to the west, which would eventually, its alignment is so that there could be a potential future connection to Amesbury. And then we have extended the cul-de-sac to the southern lot line and proposed a right-of-way dedication at that area so that there could be access to BGA. So I think another thing to point out here, as I mentioned about the large lot residential design concept that's shown in Envision Franklin, I think you can see here on this plan how we did try to be sensitive to the wetlands and the streams. We're only crossing just minimally as we need to. And again, the major road that's in this neighborhood is located right at the edge of that 500-foot hillside overlay buffer. So we were really trying not to get up into that area so that we would be able to preserve that hillside as much as possible. And that's kind of the area on the bottom end of the plan, on the bottom end of the page. So we're trying not to get into that area at all, other than to have those lots there. Beyond that, we're also, we have stormwater management proposed for the site, so that, we can manage that stormwater runoff as that happens. And then there is an amenity lot at the southern end of the site, which there haven't been designs for yet. And, we'll be working with the city to make sure that we do that within compliance of all of their standards. I will back up a couple slides just to kind of give you the context of this neighborhood and how it lies with its neighbors. Again, kind of going back, I know at the joint conceptual workshop, there was a lot of concern about connectivity and conversation about that. Just to highlight again, we have two connections to the north, both on South Berry's Chapel, the one stub to the west for a potential future connection to Amesbury Lane. And then there were we extended the southern, the cul-de-sac to the south rather, so that you could have access to BGA. Because I think that was one of the concerns that we heard coming out of the joint conceptual workshop. So we worked with staff at the city to figure out the best way to do that. There were some other requests that were made by the city, and of course the modification of standards that we've mentioned before, and Josh will kind of detail those a little more.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy. Good evening. I just had 3 items that I wanted to go over for you all. First, to highlight the difference between what was presented at the joint conceptual workshop and then what's presented today. It's exactly what Troy was mentioning there at the end, which is the extension of the cul-de-sac down to the south. So with that extension, we have the city's recommendation of approval that it meets that requirement for the zoning ordinance for connectivity to the south. And what that does is it gives emergency access to the campus of BGA. At the joint conceptual workshop, we heard your comments, we heard the fire marshal's comments about making sure that we had connection developed for BGA in the event of an emergency. That's exactly what this does, and we're in the process of finalizing an emergency access easement that would be dedicated to the city from BGA as part of this development. Additionally, our modification of standards is highlighted in red here for the city request down to the southeast. This is often referred to as the Meadows property. And just to highlight exactly what Troy was saying, this property development plan has tried to come as close to Envision Franklin's ideals as possible. Constructing or grading and putting a road down to the southeast would require going over a 14% grade and would get into this tree line, would get into that buffer there and go over some of the water features that are there. One of the ideas that supports this modification of standards are the alternate connections if that Meadows property is ever developed that would be available to that property, including several connections down there to Franklin Road, an existing light at Legends already, and also connections potentially to McHatcher or down through Ernest Rice Lane, depending on the development that might occur, if any development happens there on Meadows. And just to highlight for you all, under the Franklin Code, there are 3 conditions to consider for the modification of standards. The first one is whether the modification will enhance the design. Our submission to you all is this would enhance the design, and it allows us to keep these lots to be symmetrical. Again, we avoid the destruction of the trees there and also preserve the environment. The second condition is that the conditions of the property supporting the modification are unique to this property. And I think that's fairly obvious here that the hillside, the environment conservation, and the connection issues that we're talking about are very much unique to this property, including the surrounding land. And finally, that it is consistent, this is the third condition, consistent with Envision Franklin. As we've talked through during our presentation, we're trying to minimize the stream impacts, preserving the tree rows, and also being sensitive to the hillside and hilltops. Finally, the third thing that I wanted to highlight for you all, and actually one thing that we wanted to request from you all as the motion to recommend approval to BOMA would be to remove one of the conditions of approval that is currently recommended by staff. And that is this connection into Echo Estates, which we've heard all of the community comments tonight that is very much not in favor. And there's no one who spoke in support of a connection there. The connection, as we understood it, was requested for the reason of having emergency access in the event of a problem at Battleground Academy. As we've noted, we have provided the right-of-way, the emergency access into Battleground Academy and addressed that concern. everything that we've heard from all the neighbors, the neighborhood there, they do not want that additional access. And if this was an issue of having a parking lot simply connecting to a driveway, then the development could certainly support that. But that's not what would be required to make this connection. As you can see, I believe it is,
Right.
this shows a decent photo here. Creating that connection up there requires building approximately $1 million bridge across that widest part of the stream into a vacant lot that has no requirement that it would ultimately be developed and develop a driveway. And if it did, then it would require an emergency access easement, which would destroy the value of that home because you couldn't use the driveway to park cars, to have a basketball goal, to do any of the things that the other neighbors in Echo Estates would do. So with that, we'd like to request that you remove that condition of approval in the motion to recommend to BOMA. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Andy, do you want to address that, please? Andy's our fire marshal. Either one.
Good evening, Andy King, Fire Marshal, City of Franklin. I wasn't aware that they were going to make this recommendation tonight to remove this condition of approval. I wholeheartedly disagree with their assessment of what this is. It is an emergency access easement. We cut it to the absolute minimum, which would be 10 foot wide. They own the lot currently that abuts into Echo. We've already heard the difficulty potentially going to Amesbury with an unknown time frame. This is for the protection of the 70 or so homes in Echo and the thousands of kids and families that participate in activities at BGA. And therefore, we know the challenges from Mac Hatcher to Spencer Creek to Ernest Rice to a dead end on Echo that's more than a mile long. This connection is needed long-term to Amesbury, and it's needed immediately through this subdivision for the purpose of emergency access. The one that's shown to the south currently is at a really bad elevation and only goes to the track. If you remember, that track and that field house is built up higher than everything else, and so it would be next to impossible to get emergency services from that level in grade and back down to where we need to be in any reasonable time frame. I could probably say a whole lot more, but I'll see if we have any other questions.
Could you just confirm this is an emergency only access?
It is. We list it as emergency only access for that purpose, and it's 10 feet wide. The easement would be somewhat wider than that. And I think it's very reasonable in this case to have this as a condition of approval.
Right. Thank you.
And this is this talking about going to Echo, that you've already mentioned, the going to BGA.
Yes, it would allow, right now, if traffic were to stop on Ernest Rice Lane for any reason, an emergency, it's already blocked with school traffic at least twice a day, that roadway.
Can you point on the map of the corner where you
Yes, please, that would be helpful too.
This thing won't load up in this house.
Yeah, our stuff won't come up. That's why we're having issues.
Right there. Right. Yeah. Wait, I can't get that, I can't get that to come up.
Yeah, our iPads are not working. Yeah, public hearings, I'm doing.
So,
Okay.
So I'm glad to point to it here, but there is one undeveloped lot that's on Echo Lane.
Can you point to the one back there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's even better.
So there's one undeveloped lot on Echo Lane, which is shown as Lockhart on there, but it's the one undeveloped lot that appears to be owned by the same owner of this property. And so the request is to have an emergency access easement that would be gated, that would allow us to have both ingress in case we can't get to BGA and into Echo Estates for any reason. And then it would also, if you had some other blockage at Spencer Creek and Ernest Rice, if it were a big enough deal, a tornado came through there, it would be really important to have one other option to get out of there. We really don't develop this way anymore, and this developed over such a long period of time that it kind of became incrementally larger. And not to mention with the school campus there, it's really important to have some form of emergency connectivity in this case.
Right.
Can I ask then, is that through all of that wetland? I mean, are they going to have to build a bridge?
I would presume so. Jimmy Wiseman.
The stream does go through there, so a bridge would be required to make that connection.
I think the perspective from staff is that we minimize the width of that crossing to 10 feet. This is really limited use. That's not two-way traffic, that's one way, and that distance across here is pretty long as well. And so I don't think, with the gate there, I don't think it's going to be well-known, but it will be very well-known if it's needed.
Right.
All right,
Yeah, hang on.
It's roughly in the vicinity of where there's one empty lot to Echo.
Right there.
Okay, so in that general vicinity, and so that would also be near the amenities lot that's here, and that was our request, is to provide access through that area.
Who's funding the
Okay.
bridge? Would that be a city, who's funding the bridge if it happens?
The developer be responsible for that. So we have a proposal, a staff report that has one modification of standard in it. And that modification of standard is to eliminate connectivity to the east.
Down the
And
bottom, right there.
along this reach somewhere, what's,
To the east? It's not the east.
it would be on the back corner down there, right there?
It's on the back, so it's this connection here.
But not the cul-de-sac right there. That's still part of your
So we're
development.
still proposing the cul-de-sac, we were just asking, requesting a modification of standards.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. We've got a modification of standards in the plan that calls for the elimination of connectivity to the east.
Correct.
And that's where we are. So, okay. So, because there's a modification of standards request on this, and this, as presented by the staff recommended approval with conditions for modification of standards number 1, which is a request to remove the required eastern connection of the PUD.
Well, there's more than that.
There are two connections.
Two. We have two.
There's 2 to the east.
There are.
The modification of standards request is, there's 2 of them. Staff is recommending approval of the MOS for the northern one, closest to Berry's Chapel Road. Staff is recommending approval with conditions to the one leading to what we know as the Meadows property.
Right.
Okay.
And the other item where Andy spoke on is condition 31. It is not an MOS. Okay,
not an
so
MOS.
there's 2 different things.
Right.
I don't believe we've had a motion yet.
No, we
So,
haven't.
okay, just letting, yeah, okay.
And to clarify on the one to the Meadows property, we're not asking for pavement. We're asking for it to be pre-graded and a sign put up so that when the Meadows property develops, the board and planning commission will have the decision to make that connection or not.
That's why I have the motion so we can discuss.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But they are also,
When they discussing the,
wait, may I ask?
We need a motion so we can
But,
discuss,
but
please.
the developers are asking also
But they don't get to do
not
that.
to do the one to the west.
They don't get to do that.
Right.
They have requested that you make a motion
Yeah,
to
they don't get to
remove
do
that
that.
condition. That's your decision, whether you would like to recommend that that condition be
They don't
removed
get
or
to
not.
do that. That's us.
Yeah. Okay, I need a motion. And this, like all cases in which we consider a motion for a project that has a modification of standard, we'll start with a main motion, a general motion for the approval of the development plan. And then, once we get a second for that motion, then we can complete our discussion about the modification of standard, which will require a separate motion and second and a vote before we go back to the main motion. So is there a motion for, a main motion for item 15? Wait a minute.
We have one more public comment.
No, sir. I'm sorry, we're in the deliberation of this item. Okay, so this is, the main motion then would be for the consideration of Resolution 2024-07, a resolution approving a development plan for the Preserve at Sheridan PUD subdivision. So is there a motion for this item?
I'll move for approval with staff conditions. Recommendations to the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Harrison
You said with conditions.
for approval, recommendation of approval with staff conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And do we have a second for that motion?
So, hold on for just a sec, because we're coming back, because you said with conditions, which actually encapsulates everything that you guys just said. Actually, correct. Yeah, so I'm going to second that, because that encapsulates everything. That's his condition. So I'm going to second that, because that goes along with the modification of standards. That's his
Yeah, once
entire
the
motion. I'll
modification of
second
standards
that.
is considered, then we
I'll
come
second
back
that.
to this motion
I'll second that
with staff conditions.
with
Okay.
comments.
So we have a proper motion for approval, a recommendation of approval with staff conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, made by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Allen. And we will go now to modification, consideration of modification of standards number 1.
With conditions,
So
because there's only one.
is there a motion on that? Modification
only-
of standards number 1.
There's only one. There's only one with
Commissioner
conditions.
Allen? Do we have a?
I move for approval of modification of standard number 1 with conditions, because there's only one
Right.
with conditions.
Right.
Yes.
Second.
So we have motion with staff, for recommendation of approval with staff conditions. By Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Harrison.
We have time for
Is
comments
there
after
further
this?
discussion? Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
So, okay, so this is what I want to make clear on this, because I wanted to, actually had a question before this, but we'll stop at that. Okay, so on this, when we're saying there's going to be the sign there, because I kind of have concern about this, where we're going to have this graded, it's going to be graded to level, and there's going to be a sign there. Okay, that says the city will be paved with the city's discretion or whatever. So who pulls the trigger on that? When do we say we're going to do that, or is it just to let people know, hey, we can do this? What's the rationale behind that?
If and when the Meadows property develops, that will happen or not
Okay,
happen.
so it will. Okay, so we're just giving them notice so that nobody will be. Okay, so the other thing, and I will tell you what my concern is about this. You guys know how I feel about connectivity, because nobody ever wants it. Okay, in the city of Franklin, that is our. For those of you that are here, that is our. That's the way we do things, because nobody ever wants it until there's a disaster and no one can get in or out. But it is very, very much needed. And fire chief's here, and fire marshal's here. That tells you how important it is. But the thing is, because we made a concession, I understand why, because of topography, because of the wetlands, okay, I understand that. But some people will look at this, and the next developer that comes through, you know what they're gonna say? You made a concession for the, and I wanna make sure that we have it on the record why we did that. We don't do that. In the city of Franklin connectivity, you know, we do that. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that, because that's what's gonna happen. Okay, I'm done. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion on modification of standards number 1? Seeing none, by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr? Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion passes. So we are back to our main motion, which was approval, to recommend approval with staff conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, a motion made by Commissioner Harrison. Of course, now that motion contains the approved modification of standards number 1 as part of that motion.
One question.
Okay.
There was a citizen earlier that had a question, and I held it to this. She lives next door, and I'm sorry I didn't write down the name because we had so many citizens. And I'll do it to staff because it has, I think, is proper. She said there's wetlands beside this land, and there's a concern about flooding. And I just want to make sure that we that's handled when this comes up. That we make special, that we look at that, okay? Because I'm concerned about that too.
Yes, all of the jurisdictional features have been identified and buffered appropriately per the state and local regulations.
Okay, thank you.
That goes to the protection of those wetlands.
Right.
Correct, the
Right.
protection.
Yes, thank you.
60-foot buffers on all
Like
features.
there's protection for hillside over the steep slopes and so forth.
Yes, thank you.
That's correct.
I appreciate that.
Okay, sure. Okay, any further discussion on that item? Okay, by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just in general, the transition from Echo Estates through this subdivision, that portion looks fine. But when we get out to South Barry's Chapel Road, those 1 acre lots that border Barry's Chapel, that is not a good transition over to what the county has approved to be built over there. And I cannot support this site plan as it is with those smaller 1 acre lots bordering Barry's Chapel.
Okay. I got you. Okay.
Any other comments or?
I tend to agree with those smaller lots due to the topography, due to the how all that's going to transition in with the county. What I don't want is the 3 items that we've approved, and if we disapprove this tonight, do those 3 items have to come back even if the plans change to have 10 lots or 12 lots instead of 16? Or would they go back right through the same 4 items?
No, it's gonna go to planning, or BOMA after this.
It
You're
still
either
goes to
gonna
BOMA.
recommend for or against tonight, and then
Right.
all 3 items go to BOMA.
So if
But if
say
we
no,
turn
it still goes
this,
to
if
All
we turn
four.
this down,
It
this
still goes to
item, it still goes to vote.
Right, it would go with a recommendation for the first 3 and a recommendation
And a down for
against
this
for this item, for the development plan itself.
We already got a motion?
We got a motion.
Yeah. We've got a motion, so
Motion for
We
approval.
can vote it up or down.
a motion to recommend approval with staff conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
It would cause them to take another look at it.
Any further comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
No.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
No.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-2. Okay. Great. Okay, item number 15. Consideration of ordinance 2024-08, an ordinance to rezone 16.81 acres from neighborhood commercial NC district to planned PD 96,000 feet district for the property located south of Goose Creek Bypass and east of Goose Creek Drive. It's called the Goose Creek Bypass PUD subdivision. Staff presentation, Joey?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject property is located south Goose Creek Bypass and east of Goose Creek Drive, and the accompanying development plan proposes a 1-story restaurant building with drive-through window service and a 3-story office building with 96,000 square feet of non-residential space. Envision Franklin places this property in the neighborhood commercial design concept, which contains a mix of active uses at key intersections that generally serve surrounding residential concentrations. These centers should be compatible with and contribute to neighborhood character and livability. These centers should be defined by building frontages and an activated street. They should be pedestrian-friendly, friendly places with high-quality architecture that creates active, connected gathering places. In keeping with the vision for the neighborhood commercial design concept, Envision Franklin specifically states that conventional drive-through window uses are discouraged and that drive-through window uses may only be appropriate if integrated into the side or rear of multi-tenant buildings without the need for a front drive aisle between the primary structure and the street it faces. The proposed site layout of the development plan is in direct conflict with this policy of Envision Franklin, and therefore staff must recommend disapproval of the rezoning to Plan District as it is tied to the development plan. So with that in mind, staff acknowledges that the context of this neighborhood commercial designation is different from most in the city. Rather than a commercial node serving a large concentration of nearby residential units, this site is along a wide major arterial, and there are standalone drive-through uses that exist directly across the street. This site may not lend itself to this particular policy in Envision Franklin due to the context and location of this particular site. So staff does recommend that the Planning Commission recommend to Board Member Alderman to deny ordinance 2024-08 because the accompanying development plan does not comply with Envision Franklin. However, as stated in this report, the Planning Commission may find that the site does not lend itself to this particular property or policy on drive-through window uses in Envision Franklin and may wish to recommend approval. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've got several people that have asked to speak to this item, so I will name about 4 at a time. We'll start off with Vicki Krieger, Brian Davis, Leanne Cates, and Ryan Anderson. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Brian Davis. I live at 115 Gosling Drive in Franklin in Goose Creek Estates. I live on the street that borders the property here. I'd like to start by saying thank you for your service to the community. I know it gives up and takes a lot of your personal time, and for the most part, it's a thankless job. With that said, I'm going to ask you to do something for us tonight, of course, or I wouldn't have shown up. I want to be sure to say that we as a neighborhood overall support this development. We support In-N-Out Burger Corporate and the type of project, the quality of project that they're proposing. We believe them to be fair, honest people that are trying to be good neighbors and do something good inside the confines of the city of Franklin. With that said, there are items that we have a little bit of disagreement on. We need some help from you on. They have worked with us and solved many of those that they put in writing that they committed to work with, such as light glare, using dark sky lighting, trying to reduce signage glare by asking you to approve halo lighting, which we support. And there is a sample of that in Berry Farms at the Her MD building, and it is less obtrusive than what we've had. Along with a few other issues, the dumpster timing of the dumpsters to be dumped during closer to business hours than early in the mornings, which we have a lot of effect of that now from the Berry Farms development. On Friday, I sent to all the commissioners a list of items that we're seeking help on, and that some that the In-N-Out Corporate has already agreed to work with us on, and we appreciate that. We also attached some photographs that were taken by our neighbors that border the property on Gosling Drive between 8 and 10 o'clock at night. And there's already extreme glare from the Berry Farms property. And our neighborhood, really, we're getting surrounded on all 4 sides by the development over the years. We're taking more quality of life hits from development than any other neighborhood. The drive, the private drive is a huge issue that some of our neighbors will talk about. We want to ask you to remove that requirement for an access drive. We don't believe it's necessary, and it's 25 foot off the border of our property. It's very, very detrimental to us.
Okay, you need to wrap up your comments,
All
please.
right. We'll have some other neighbors that will speak to that.
Okay, great, thank you.
It's my first time doing something like this, so glad to be here. Thank you for your service. Leanne Cates, 2024 Goose Creek Drive. I'm not directly affected by this. I'm in the second house in the neighborhood, and this property does back up to our backyard, but it will probably affect us 5 to 10 years from now. So wanted to go ahead and speak up to this now. Our biggest concern, and we understand about the connectivity, Franklin, and the importance of that, but we also live right across the street from an old quarry. And I can't count the number of times we've had to call the police officers to wrangle the kids, get the drinkers out. They're parking right on our street, right in front of our houses. And that's just with a quarry where they take a walk through the woods and go and have a little party and hope they don't fall in the water. This road that's being proposed under this Connect Franklin proposal is a concern, because if they're doing that on our front yard and right on the street, this is going to be hidden behind the buildings, behind the parking lot, behind the corporate office, right in the backyards of the people that live right on the back side that back up to that property. And so that's a concern that you're going to have. I mean, teenagers are going to be teenagers. So let's not give them an extra place to play, an extra place to hang out, do things they don't need to be doing, stay out of trouble. So we're just asking if there's a way that we could just lose that back road, that back access road, and see if there's an alternative, another way that, whether it's for emergency services or otherwise, if there's another way that this can be done to not back up to our neighbors. And I know they've got plans for landscaping and walls, and there's all different kinds of things that I believe In-N-Out Burger has agreed to help with. But that doesn't take away the fact that you're going to have a lot of activity on that back road when we don't really need it, and it doesn't serve any purpose that we can see at this time. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Vicki Krieger. I live at 124 Gosling Drive, and I attended the conceptual workshop and realized that no one was talking about what Leanne or Brian have been talking about. And I wanted to be sure that you knew that I am one of those people that lives, I'm the beneficiary of the headlights that come off of, I believe it's Village Plains Boulevard, right where McDonald's is. I'm all for In-N-Out Burger. I know they'll be great at what they do, but we are really worried about, I think they're gonna have 69 holding spaces at their drive-through. So with all that said, there's plenty of connectivity going on all the way across that. Now they're gonna put and I think it's required by the city, but what are we connecting to? When you leave Chadwell or whatever, and you go over to that next, over to our entrance, I'm not sure exactly what you're connecting to. I always knew that was going to be developed. And I was only worried about one thing, or hoping for one thing, and that was that our entrance would connect us to a light to take us over to Publix. I don't know if you know how dangerous it is already to get out of there. And this proposal is connecting a road from Chadwell to, like Leanne said, to the quarry. I'm really not sure. So I'd just like for y'all to consider what you're connecting to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm out of order. I'm William Bailey, 509 Downeymead Drive. I'd like to reiterate that we love having In-N-Out come in. They've been great corporate neighbors. And to reiterate what Vicki had to say, connectivity has been a huge issue with our neighborhood. We are covered on 4 sides. But in reality, this connectivity really is going to bring people out of Chadwell, which is going to be to our east, and it's going to take them to a road to get back onto Goose Creek Bypass. So if you can imagine, there's a road that's proposed that'll take somebody from Goose Creek Bypass to Goose Creek Bypass. Doesn't have connectivity to any other neighborhoods. If they need emergency services to go to In-N-Out Burger, that entire unit is going to be fenced in. They aren't going to be able to get in anyway. The only way that they can get in is going through the security entrance. So I would hope that you would consider taking out that road in your recommendation to BOMA. I certainly appreciate it. In addition to that, there's some other items that we're working with to take down some of the glares Brian mentioned. We're also talking about some fencing and some other things. But we also have a tree line that we have to consider as well, that if we do any type of berming or something like that, it's going to affect the trees on our property line side as well. So thank you very much, and I do appreciate your service. I'm actually the HOA president, so I understand exactly how much this can be thankless at times, but I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ryan Anderson. I'm here with my wife, Lee Anderson. We live at 2047 Goose Creek Estates, Drive, excuse me. I do appreciate what you do. I think it's a difficult job what you guys do. So I really do want to stress that right now. So I'm just here real quick to just basically discuss the matter that we're talking about, and it's specifically with that thoroughfare that's going in on the south side of that property that In-N-Out owns. I just don't see the logic and why it's actually there unless there's an emergency need. But other than that, it actually, I think, would, in my perspective, wouldn't be of an added value. I know that coming off Goose Creek Drive onto Goose Creek Bypass is in of itself to take a left turn towards Liberty can often take a long time to get on and off, and having access to have In-N-Out customers coming in and out of there using that as a thoroughfare is just gonna it's just gonna make it a lot worse. I already envision the future. There's gonna be people that are gonna be trying to go to In-N-Out, and they're gonna be taking that Goose Creek Bypass thinking that they're gonna squirt through, to take a back way into In-N-Out. I see a lot of drama coming up ahead just based on that. But I just think that you should take into consideration to not put that thoroughfare in or find an alternate route. I just don't see the advantage of it. It affects the neighbors, it affects the harmony of our property and our neighborhood. And again, I find In-N-Out is going to be a really good. It's going to improve everyone's quality of life because everyone likes an In-N-Out burger. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of congestion that's probably not necessary along that route and along Goose Creek Drive into our estate. So that's all I have. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Justina Kraft, Jeff Hoyt, Krista Sartor, Dale Bukowski. If y'all would come forward and be ready to speak. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Tristina Kraft, and I reside off Eiderdown and Goose Creek Estates. Been fortunate to live here in Franklin, having relocated 2.5 years ago. Like so many who are here, there is great concern for the rapid and exponential growth impacting our area. While I have only been living here for such a short time, I have seen how much the city has changed. It's hard to escape the growth or remain insulated from it at any capacity, which is true here in our community of Goose Creek Estates. It doesn't seem like it's going to obviously be stopping, as we have heard. In fact, I did see a sign today on my drive home that said, "I miss the old Franklin." I'm here to speak on behalf of the In-N-Out retail and corporate business proposal that will be going in front of our community. Let me first reference that we couldn't have asked for a better company to partner with than In-N-Out. They have been approachable and have exemplified and placed great value in wanting and caring for the community which they will be a part of, which includes meeting the needs of the residents who they will be neighboring with, including lessening any impact. They have listened and aligned with our concerns and in fact stand alongside us that this access drive, this road, is not necessary. In-N-Out does not want this road, and more importantly, neither do us residents. While I understand you make determinations given a variety of factors, the best interest of the community should outweigh all others. Establishing, is this road necessary? In this case, there is nothing benefiting, or as the other residents have said, there's no purpose to it. All it would do is cause people to drive up and down it and know where to go. What will we gain by having it? Nothing. What will we lose? Will we generate more traffic? Will it create an issue with safety for patrons and residents in and around the area? The answer is undoubtedly yes. What are the noise and light pollution impacts? With the cars driving up this road at all hours, how will it impact our neighbors? How will this impact the property value of these residents? Tremendously. The answer is simply, this road is not necessary. And I'm not sure if you have driven on Goose Creek Bypass at all between Lewisburg Pike and the 65, between the hours of 7 to 9 or 3 to 7:30, but good luck to you and say a prayer, because the traffic is similar to that of driving on Interstate 5 in California. I know because I drove it and I lived it for years. It's a safety issue. We don't need to add impact by adding another road. I kindly plead with you to just listen to the residents, and if you do continue on, I just would like to make note that we should be here for the betterment and safety of our children, our families, our homes, and our neighborhood. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jeff Hoyt, and I live at 108 Gosling Drive. That access road, I guess that in and out, or you're proposing to build, butts right up against my land. It's a very busy area, traffic noise, and I think it's even going to dead end where my land is right there. So I'm really confused why they're even building it there, because they have access to get into Goose Creek Bypass by going just east of In-N-Out Burger. So I'm not too sure why they're even taking it behind my land and all our neighbors' land, like the neighbors have said. So I'm a little confused on that. I'm just hoping that they don't build it, or they just move it a little further east and connect into Goose Creek Bypass without going along that area in brown right there on your map at the very bottom side. It would go along that end of it, and I'm not too sure why. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Dale Bukowski. I'm at 112 Gosling. I'm actually Jeff's neighbor. And this access road that we've all been talking about will directly impact my property. It will be just 25 feet from my lot line. And I think the major concern we have is we understand Chadwell Farms will eventually be developed, and this will be connected to that. The issue is to the right of Chadwell, or to the left of Chadwell Farms, the only thing that it will lead to is the entrance to our neighborhood. There's nothing to the left of our neighborhood. That's where we get into the quarry, and there's no room for development. So the connection, there's not really an ideal connection to anything. So with Goose Creek Bypass, the extension of that years ago has been, needed. As you heard about some of the traffic issues that we have, we understand the need for that. We already deal with a lot of road noise all through the day and night with Goose Creek Bypass. And we're not anti-development. We understand, as my neighbors have said, we're actually excited about the In-N-Out development, and we feel like they will be good neighbors to us. But this access road mere feet from our property line will directly affect, since that will be an open thoroughfare, for people to come in at all times of the day and night without connection to really anything. So I appreciate your attention, appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Krista Sartori. I live at 305 Eiderdown Court. I am not immediately impacted as some of my neighbors are here. I'm buried a little deeper in the neighborhood, but I did want to stand up and talk about the road in particular. The road, as my neighbors have said, I'll echo what they say, is probably just inviting more crime. It does not have anything to which it would connect. So I appreciate the connectivity issue that Commissioner Allen mentioned, that nobody wants the connectivity. But in this case, I think it's more a spirit of the rule that we should be looking at, because it just doesn't serve a practical purpose. What was explained to us in the last HOA meeting last week is that there actually will be connectivity. It's just not going to be, we hope, on this road. There is another little piece that will connect to Chadwell. We're talking about the road that's on the very south side of the property. So we're hoping that you will consider that little piece of connectivity enough. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Betsy Hester.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am Betsy Hester. I'm the 2nd District County Commissioner, and I represent Goose Creek Estates. I live at 112 Valley Ridge Road in Franklin. I'm in the urban growth boundary. My constituents speak to me a great deal about traffic control, congestion, and I agree there is a great deal of traffic on Goose Creek Bypass. It's almost in gridlock at certain hours of the day. Turning left out of Goose Creek Estates currently from Goose Creek Drive onto the bypass, Goose Creek Bypass, is almost impossible. You practically have to turn right and then go through the Berry Farms development. Goose Creek Estates homeowners have been good neighbors to Berry Farms, and I think that is to be credited to their account. They have dealt with light pollution and, as I said, the traffic a great deal. I know they're looking forward to getting an In-N-Out burger and getting the hamburger and the fries. Understand that the In-N-Out burger people have a lot of integrity. I would ask that the In-N-Out burger folks realize that they need to be good neighbors to Goose Creek Estates, and that includes fencing, lighting, and it includes this back road on the south side of the, 16.81 acres. That's very close to residents, about 25 feet away from the property line of some folks on Gosling Drive. So please be good neighbors. In-N-Out has a lot of integrity, or they wouldn't be as big as they are. So I'm asking that support, and I do support my constituents who have spoken so far. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Betsy. Okay. Yes. Art.
May I say something? We don't have a really good visual for what we're talking about. Do y'all have another slide that you can use?
Well, there'll be a staff presentation.
This is for the rezoning of the property?
Yeah, this is just
You're gonna
rezoning.
see it, that's right.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this looks like all the public comments, so we'll close the public comment period. We'll ask for the applicant to make a presentation. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, staff, for all of your hard work. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Sean Finnegan. I'm with In-N-Out Burger, Department Head of Support Facilities. I'm joined this evening by Jeff Bryant, our Development Manager, and Matt Rigg, also our Project Manager. We also have our engineers here, Mary McGowan and Gray Harrison with Kimley Horn. I'd like to start off by reminding you all of what Rob Howards, our Vice President, said a few weeks back at the joint workshop, and that is we remain very excited to have the decision made to have Franklin be our home for our eastern expansion and basically our eastern headquarters. As Rob mentioned, we looked at lots of different states. We also looked at lots of different cities. Basically, Franklin is the best fit for us. So we really want to embrace that and want you to know that. At that joint workshop, we also heard a lot of comments from planning commissioners, from aldermen, and we had lots of meetings with city staff. And as you can tell, we've had a lot of meetings with the neighbors as well. And as a result, we've made a lot of changes to both our restaurant and our office building. We believe that those changes address all of those comments, and basically it concludes with, we feel it blends both the heritage of Franklin and In-N-Out Burger. Before I hand it over to Greg Gamble with Gamble Design Collaborative, I'd like to mention that, or remind you that we did actually meet with the neighbors quite a bit, and as they've mentioned, there are a few items that we did come to an agreement with them on. And real quickly, if I could mention those, dumpster pickup timing for our office, perimeter boundary landscape will be built at the first phase of our construction, speed humps on the cross-access road if they're allowed. The parking lot lighting in the office will be shielded from the residences. They asked that we not have internal lit light on the backside of the restaurant that faces the residence. They asked for us to have an MOS for halo lighting, which we have to allow that. The landscape within the property of the office building to help with the shielding of lights towards the residences. We're planning on doing that. They've asked us to study the landscape along the perimeter there to also help with the same thing. And lastly, to have 24-hour guard at our office property. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Greg Gamble with Gamble Design Collaborative.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. And Amy's already asked me to stay within 10 minutes, so I'm going to do that. We're going to talk very fast and we'll move right along. Hi, my name is Greg Gamble. Thank you. My name is Greg Gamble with Gamble Design Collaborative, landscape architect and land planner. And this is a very exciting opportunity. In-N-Out Burger is not bringing you a glass box to approve tonight for their corporate headquarters. They're bringing you a campus, a really unique campus, and something special, not just for the city of Franklin, but for In-N-Out Burger. They really could have chosen anywhere to do this. The property is currently zoned neighborhood commercial and has a neighborhood commercial and Vision Franklin policy on it. We're asking for a rezoning tonight to development plan because we have some specific things that relate to and tie to the campus, the restaurant, the site, the relationship of these buildings to the neighboring residential, such as gabled roofs, such as the width of the drive aisles in the parking lot. And these are things that are really unique to how the operation of the restaurant functions, and it requires a development plan in order for us to proceed forward with those special recommendations. I did go a little old school today. When I woke up this morning, my phone wouldn't work and didn't start working till noon. It scared me a little bit, so I brought boards. I will say that Joey has downloaded these boards. As we present with the development plan, I'd like to use those for reference. These are more color illustrative renderings than just kind of the development plan that we typically see. But happy to answer any questions that you may have on the development plan. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further from the applicant team? Okay, so this is for an ordinance to rezone. So is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval to the board.
Second.
So you have a motion to recommend approval to BOMA by Commissioner Harrison, and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And the motion passes. So item number 16 is the consideration of resolution 2024-08. And this is a resolution approving a development plan for the Goose Creek Bypass PUD subdivision with 14 modifications of development standards, commercial building, office building, materials, signage, fencing for the property located south of Goose Creek Bypass and east of Goose Creek Drive. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr.
Joey?
Chairman. The applicant has submitted a development plan for the Goose Creek Bypass PUD subdivision that proposes a one-story restaurant building with drive-through window service and a three-story office building totaling 96,000 square feet of non-residential space. Envision Franklin places this property in the neighborhood commercial design concept. While the proposed plan meets many of the recommendations of the neighborhood commercial design concept, the proposed site layout of the development plan and standalone drive-through restaurant is in direct conflict with this policy of Envision Franklin, as we discussed with the rezoning, and therefore staff must recommend disapproval of the development plan. So with that in mind, again, staff acknowledges that the context of this neighborhood commercial designation is different from those that are in most of the city. Rather than a commercial node serving a large concentration of nearby residential units, this site is along a wide major arterial street, and there are standalone drive-through uses that exist directly across the road. This site may not lend itself to this particular policy in Envision Franklin due to the context and location of this particular property. So there are 14 modifications of standards requests in this plan that address building design, primary materials, signage, and fencing. The following is the list of MOS requests included in the application and staff's recommendations for each, should the development plan be approved tonight, or not tonight, but recommended for approval. Approve with BOMA, there you go. MOS number 1, requesting to modify commercial mixed-use building ground floor height to 10 feet. The applicant has added additional architectural elements such as towers to the design to help accentuate the overall height and meet the intent of the ground floor height regulation. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 1. MOS number 2, requesting to increase standard driving aisle width to 28 feet. Staff is comfortable with the additional 4 feet in width proposed by the applicant. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 2. MOS number 3, request to allow gable and pitched roofs on commercial mixed-use buildings. The proposed gable and pitched roof forms on the building help accentuate the vertical articulation of the building and help provide a transition in architecture to the adjacent residential neighborhood. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 3. MOS number 4, request to allow window recesses of 2.5 inches for the drive-through window and 1 inch for the kitchen windows. The applicant has indicated that the only windows with the proposed modifications are for the drive-through window and kitchen windows that will be shielded by the drive-through colonnade. So therefore, staff can support the request due to the limited view of the windows. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 4. MOS number 5, request to alter standards for monument signage. The applicant is requesting to increase the maximum height for monument signage to 7.5 feet, add stucco as a primary material, and increase the overall height to 8.5 feet above the street center line. The exhibits supplied by the applicant show that the proposed height and location of the sign still meet the intent of the ordinance by maintaining a pedestrian-friendly scale. The sign design also incorporates masonry into the base of the sign, so the addition of stucco in this limited capacity can be supported. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 5. MOS number 6, request to allow wall signs to be located above the roof line of the uppermost floor. Given the tower elements on the restaurant building, the wall signs would not appear to be spaced correctly with substantial empty space above the sign, whether it were to follow the regulations of the ordinance. Staff can support this request, but are limited to the wall signs specified in the development plan. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 6. MOS number 7, request to defer connection of cross-access between adjacent properties until they are later developed. Section 9.5.3A of the ordinance states that internal vehicular circulation shall be designed to provide cross-access to each adjacent property. The applicant has shown that cross-access between the eastern and western parcels is included in the development plan. However, they requested to defer full construction of the drive aisles until those properties are developed. Staff can support this request, provided that the applicant plat easements for those future connections with a recorded final plat. Staff recommends approval with conditions of MOS number 7. MOS number 8, requesting to allow for irregular shaped signage. Irregularly shaped signs have been approved with previous MOS requests. The shape of the In-N-Out Burger logo is difficult to fit into a regular shaped sign and still have visual prominence. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 8. MOS number 9, request for the use of halo-style signage. While no halo-style lighting has been allowed in the past through MOSs, the applicant is limiting the halo lighting request to solid white that is not overly bright. Granting halo-style lighting with this MOS may set a precedent for future requests, but staff is considering a zoning ordinance update to permit halo-style lighting within certain regulations. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 9. MOS number 10, request to allow stucco as a primary material for the commercial mixed-use building type. Section 6.8 of the ordinance limits primary materials for commercial mixed-use buildings to brick, natural stone, cultured stone, smooth wood siding, or fiber cement siding. Stucco is not included in this list as it is not an established primary material that one would find in the city of Franklin or the Middle Tennessee region. Stucco can be used as an accent material under the current zoning ordinance. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 10. MOS number 11, request to allow stucco as a primary material for the office building type, similar to MOS number 10. 6.9 of the ordinance limits primary materials for office-type buildings to brick, natural stone, or cultured stone. Stucco is not included in this list as it is not an established primary material that one would find in the region. Stucco may be used as an accent material. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 11. MOS number 12, request to remove the requirement of a defined base for the office building type. Section 6.9 of the ordinance for horizontal articulation of the building requires that a building shall have a base, middle, and cap. The applicant is requesting to limit the removal of base to the portions that have stucco treatment. However, as they are requesting that stucco be a primary material, that would be a substantial amount of the building and cannot be supported by staff. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 12. MOS 13, request to increase front yard fencing maximum height to 6 feet. The applicant has provided exhibits to show that additional plantings and a berm will help conceal the fencing and additional height given the additional landscaping and proposed location of the fencing. Staff can support and recommend approval of MOS number 13. MOS 14, request to remove required masonry columns for commercial fencing. Again, the applicant has provided exhibits to show that additional plantings and a berm will be created to help conceal the fencing and the additional height, given the additional landscaping, the proposed location of the fencing, and that masonry columns may bring more attention to the taller fence. Staff can support this request, so staff recommends approval of MOS number 14. I know that was a lot. I gave you a little cheat sheet before the meeting, so if you need to refer back to that, also happy to answer any questions regarding the MOSs. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to deny Resolution 2024-08 because the development plan does not comply with Envision Franklin. However, as stated in this report, the Planning Commission may find that the site does not lend itself to this particular policy on drive-through window uses in Envision Franklin, and therefore you may wish to recommend approval. So, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Okay, does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item?
I'm just going to bring this up to kind of illustrate.
Can you give us your name and address, please, sir?
William Bailey, 509 Downey Mead Drive. Just to kind of quickly give you guys an idea of the road that we were talking about. Goose Creek bypass here. This is the southern section of the road that we're talking about. So this is the campus and the parking lot. What we're talking about in the connectivity issue is that this will be Chadwell. There'll be the rest of In-N-Out Burger over here, so really the connectivity doesn't go all the way through, and this is the road that we're speaking of. And when we speak of In-N-Out Burger, you'll notice that it's all fenced around this area, and so the only way that the emergency vehicles could get in is going to be through this one. Just wanted to give you a heads up and let you see that. I'll leave this here so you guys can refer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. One quick, okay.
So.
Give us your name again, Vicki.
I'm Vicki Krieger. I live at 124 Gosling Drive. On this.
Can you hold it to the side so you can still speak into the microphone?
Okay.
Otherwise we lose
We
you.
were showing the road that we're all so worried about. Like, what is this going to? What we don't understand is we've got more protection built in up here with landscaping and all, especially right there, than we do back here. Like there's no consideration for our yards right here whatsoever. And I think that's just something that needs to be pointed out.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. Okay. Applicant, do you have any further comments to make?
I do, thank you. Do you mind grabbing the boards just real quick? Again, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm here representing the applicant In-N-Out Burger. We have our master plan board that Joey is pulling up. Before I get started, I printed out the modification of standards, and I added tabs 1 through 14. If anyone, I know that a lot of you already have printed copies, but if you would like one, we have them here available for you. I'll just leave them with Amy, and if you want to raise your hand, you're welcome to get one. In-N-Out Burger's development plan proposes 92,000 square foot new regional office campus. And we say regional, what we're talking about there is anything that is east of the Mississippi River. Right now, In-N-Out Burger is not east of the Mississippi River. They are only west of. So this is a brand new venture for them. And they're really excited to be here in Franklin. Their restaurant that they're proposing is special. It is the centerpiece of their campus. It's what you're going to see as you're driving down Goose Creek Bypass. It's what you're going to see when you arrive at this regional campus for the very first time. It's very, very special to them. They've put a lot of thought, a lot of intentionality, and a lot of care into the design of the architecture and this building. In our last presentation at the Joint Conceptual Workshop, we presented architectural elevations that were really dominating the streetscape of Goose Creek Bypass with stucco materials. We had modification of standards that requested no base on the restaurant. We have added a brick base now on the restaurant. We have architectural elevations that front Goose Creek Bypass. Oh, yeah, she wants one. So this is the new restaurant elevation. You can see the brick base features here along the bottom. The pedestrian archways here along the side of the building that faces back toward the parking lot area. This is the front elevation of the In-N-Out Burger restaurant. In-N-Out Burger has taken care to revise the office elevation. This is a view looking from I-65 as you're coming down Goose Creek Bypass, where you see two-story brick elevations and brick elevations that are fronting onto Goose Creek Bypass. This third floor that's recessed back behind, it's more in the center of the campus. It does have stucco walls, but the predominant view, what you're going to experience going down Goose Creek Bypass is brick. And they heard that loud and clear from the board, mayor, and alderman and the planning commission that we need you to start tying these materials a little bit more together. So they believe that they've reached a really good position where they feel like that they still have the heart and soul of what In-N-Out Burger is tied into really some of the expectations that Franklin has for this campus. The master plan for this development incorporates the frontage requirements of the zoning ordinance per a PUD. We can either do landscape frontage or urban frontage. On this particular master plan, we have the landscape frontage requirements, which means the building has to be really up to the street, up to Goose Creek Bypass. The parking is required to be on the side or to the rear. As you can see with the office plan, it's to the side of the office, it's to the rear of the restaurant. And so we're in compliance with the ordinance from that standpoint. We also have a requirement in the ordinance for cross connectivity to adjacent properties. Intervehicular circulation shall be designed to provide cross access to each adjacent property. These cross access connections are to all existing streets or stubs, access easements, internal drives, drive aisles, driveways, and parking areas. We've met with our neighbors several times. We've communicated with them that we understand the requirement that the city of Franklin has for In-N-Out Burger on this property. That connection road is a requirement. We have to connect from Berry Farms Chadwell to Goose Creek Estates Drive at some point. That's in the zoning ordinance, and we're not asking for relief from that, but we certainly understand and sympathize with some of the concerns of our neighbors. On the master plan, you will be discussing in a moment a modification of standards to delay the construction of those connector roads to some future point in time where In-N-Out Burger better understands how they're going to be developing that property adjacent to Goose Creek Bypass, and when Berry Farms actually starts construction and builds Chadwell. Once those two things happen, those connections go east and west. From Berry Farms Chadwell, they will have connectivity to a right in, right out. From Goose Creek Estates, their road will actually be realigned to a signalized intersection. And this road will, this drive aisle will connect to that new Goose Creek Estates in the future. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Greg, you mentioned Chadwell. Is Chadwell
To the right.
to the east?
It is.
Okay. Where it's shown in the,
Can we see then that first picture, that was, I think was being shown when we were talking about the rezoning? And it looks like there's a river and a flood, there's floodplain there?
Oh, on the far west side. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I'm talking
Far
on the
east.
east side.
East.
On Chadwell side?
Yes,
Yes. In Berry Farms Chadwell, there is an area that is floodway, wetlands in Chadwell.
5 Mile Creek, right?
Yeah, there's 5 Mile Creek, but there's
That's
also an
exactly
area.
5 Mile Creek.
So isn't that showing that that's going to connect to that, through that?
So it would. If you remember on Berry Farms Chadwell, they have an area that is dedicated to soccer fields, and they have a playground area and a place for restrooms. Right in front of that is a proposed street connection that would connect to this property.
Well, I'd like to go back from the, as I say, that first thing where it's just showing the two pieces of, yeah, right there.
Right there.
You see those two blue things, and they're huge.
It is. That's 5 Mile Creek. There is 100-year floodplain on that
Yeah.
property for Berry Farm.
And so we're talking about putting that little road to the south there, and it's going to go right to that?
Well, if you look just to above it, can I use my pointer?
Please.
Okay, sorry.
On the back.
If you see this road right here, this is that Ream Swimming Boulevard, directly across the street. That is Berry Farm's main entrance. It comes down and then crosses over this creek right here. So there's a bridge in the future. What we're talking about is a point of connection right here to the main entrance that goes up to that signal.
Why do you need it?
It's a requirement of the zoning ordinance in
That's
Chapter
right.
9.5.3. It's required.
But, so it's just going to be going to a bridge? Nowhere. I mean,
If I may.
yes, please tell us about that.
If I may, the Chadwell property cannot be developed unless they access it from that signal, which is just to the west of where the floodway is, if I'm saying that right, Greg.
You are.
Right, so
Yeah.
Chadwell, if they develop, they would have to fill in the floodplain. They've already done a hydraulic study on this when the previous plan was approved, or had started that process. And they were going to bridge over the floodway. So Chadwell would be responsible for building the connection to the signal and building a connection over to their property line, which would ultimately connect to this development.
But now, why would they want to connect then right on the back of this and right on the back of Goose Creek Estates?
Any
It made no
opportunity-
sense to me.
Any opportunity we can to keep cars off of Goose Creek Bypass, which is, we've already heard how congested it is. If people can find alternate routes, we need to provide those. So that's part of the zoning ordinance requirement.
So is it going to go over there and cross to the Goose Creek?
When the
I'm sorry. What is their street? I can't think of the one.
Goose Creek Drive?
Yeah, Goose Creek Drive.
So when the western parcel is developed, Goose Creek Drive will be realigned to align with Captain Freeman, which is a signalized intersection, allowing better access
Can you
for the
point
Goose
that,
Creek.
Greg, please?
Yeah, point that out.
So that Goose Creek Drive is gonna turn dogleg back into that red light.
Not a part of this plan, but in the future, yes.
Right, and so the neighbors will have a red light there instead of having a dangerous left, right?
They'll go directly to the
Yes, sir.
They can't turn left.
Which is
right
what
now.
we want.
That's how you want that access.
That's what we
But-
want.
Why do they need that boulevard going across the south side?
That's right. I mean, I can't,
He doesn't need to be told.
I'm sorry.
but that's what I'm wondering about. All it does is just,
It's for the future.
it's going to be right there on the back of Goose Creek Estates.
So,
And I can't see how that is going to be helpful.
well, that's a decision that can be made. This development is splitting up into two parcels. The restaurant will be on a parcel, and the office will be on its own. So the
Gotcha.
zoning ordinance says make the connection, so that's where they have shown it, and there's a
that's what we
modification
need.
standard for it to be installed
Exactly.
later, and we support that.
And I do too.
Well, if you drive out there, though, it just means, all of Goose Creek Estates just goes back to not connecting with anything, but it means that it's going to be right on their property line there. I mean, right on their property line of the people that live.
The zoning ordinance says it has to connect, it does not say where.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. And so, and Greg, you said that this road, this Goose Creek, has to turn back so that it can align here.
That's correct.
Okay.
So part of that's already predetermined.
Yeah, it is.
We saw that a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right now, the service road in the back doesn't go to anything.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
At this point, we're getting close to deliberating, so you
Oh,
either
Lord,
need to make
yes.
a motion or
Stop
stop talking.
Please. Yes.
Okay. So this is another of these cases where we'll entertain a main motion, and when properly seconded, we'll continue into discussion of each of the individual modifications of standards, and then we will return to the main motion to close it out. So is there a motion? This is for a resolution to approve a development plan for the Goose Creek Bypass PUD subdivision. The main motion, again, is recommendation to Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Move for approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second.
Hold on. Recommend approval to BOMA by Commissioner Orr. And the second was that Jimmy?
Three of us.
Yeah, there's three of us too, so pick one.
Who you like the most?
Jimmy. So I'm going to say that Jimmy Franks seconded that motion.
I'll
You might have said-
surrender to him.
Okay, so we'll proceed into then discussion.
Quick point,
Yes.
just a quick point. Very rarely will I go against a recommendation from staff. In this case, and I really want to say this rather than be hypocritical, but in this case, in this area, because there are, and this goes against Envision Franklin also, but because there's a proliferation of drive-through restaurants across the street, and so I can support this on the other side of the street, but I always want to make sure I clarify why. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Okay. So we'll proceed into then our modifications of standards. Modification of standard number 1 is a request to modify the commercial or mixed-use building ground floor height to 10 feet. And staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 1. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Any further discussion? By roll call, Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Modification of standards number 2 is a request to increase the standard driving aisle width to 28 feet. And staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 2. Is there a motion for MOS number 2?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 3 is a request to allow gable and pitched roofs on commercial mixed-use buildings. Again, staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 3. Is there a motion for this modification of standards?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 4 is a request to allow window recesses of 2.5 inches for the drive-through window and 1 inch for the kitchen windows. Again, staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 4. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Any further discussion? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 5 is a request to alter standards for monument signage. And staff gave a good detailed description of the significance of that request. Staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 5. Is there a motion for this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison, a second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 6 is a request to allow wall signs to be located above the roof line of the uppermost floor. And staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 6. Is there a motion for this item?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Franks. Any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 7 is a request to defer connection of cross-access between adjacent properties until they are developed. Staff recommends approval with conditions on this item for modification of standards number 7. Is there a motion on this item?
Move to approve with staff comments, conditions of approval.
Second.
And what it says is request to defer connection.
Staff recommends approval with conditions, is what he said.
And the condition is, to clarify, the connections would not be made until development happens on either the western parcel or the Chadwell or the eastern parcel there.
Right.
So it would give opportunity to better align those and coordinate in the future.
Proper motion, second. I
Is
second.
there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
No.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 8 is a request to allow for irregular signed shaped signage. Easy for me to say. Irregular shaped signage. Staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 8. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval with, yes. Make sure there's no comments, sorry.
Yeah, I know.
So we have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Is there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 9 is a request for the use of halo-style signage, and staff recommends approval of this modification of standards. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Is that correct? Okay. Any further discussion? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 10 is a request to allow stucco as the primary material for the commercial or mixed-use building type. And in this case, staff recommends disapproval of this modification of standards. Is there a motion on this item?
Move to approve.
Can we discuss this again?
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
move to a second with comments.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Chair, sorry, now that you have a motion and a second, I did want to say, I think we got into some questions during the applicant's time. So he was not able to address this particular modification of standards or the next one. If you have any questions regarding the applicant's design intent, you may want to consider hearing from the applicant on that.
Yeah, my concern is
from the applicant?
what he presented tonight is different than what was presented to us. So I'd like clarification on that.
So if you have any questions for the applicant, the chair could call the applicant back.
okay, so where's my motion?
Right here.
And I'm second with comments.
You had a motion to
Approving
approve
the modification.
the modification. And the second was,
Made with comments.
okay. Commissioner Harrison, you have comments?
Yeah, I would like the applicant to come back forward, or somebody from the applicant to come back forward and talk to us, because what we originally received in our packet showed more stucco than what was presented tonight on the current boards. And I want to know what the differentiation is that, and does that base satisfy the requirements of staff to be approved? Yeah, and
Can you grab these boards one more time?
Blame it on the sun.
These are the elevations that have been included in the resubmittal package. After the joint conceptual workshop, we went back to the drawing board and changed the architecture. And we resubmitted this architecture with your new packet. So it should be in the new packet elevations for both the office and the restaurant. There are a lot of reasons why we could say that stucco is not supported as a primary material in the zoning ordinance. One of the big issues is regarding the maintenance of the stucco. That's one of the things that In-N-Out Burger does very, very, very well. Keep in mind that this restaurant, which embodies a lot of the identity of what In-N-Out Burger is, their history, where they come from, it's going to be their showpiece in front of their headquarters. It has to be done well, and it has to be done the right way so that the material lasts and has longevity to it. Jeff is with the restaurant team, and if you don't mind, he's got just a minute and a half to tell you about.
I'm sorry. Take my medicine, sorry, okay.
About their stucco program, really fast.
Commissioners, thank you very much for having us here. My name is Jeff Bryant. I'm the development manager for the store team. As far as the stucco goes and everything else that In-N-Out does, quality is really infused within our DNA in the entire company. So whether it's preparing our food, going to our customers, or through the end construction, I am constantly amazed by the quality and the attention to detail that our contractors or our in-house superintendents are able to do on every single restaurant that we build. And moving to a new state, continuing with our stucco standards, nothing's going to change. We're going to maintain that high level of quality. And that's really where it begins on the installation. Having quality contractors in construction. At the end of our construction, we have the stuccos fully painted with gloss paint to help minimize the dirt and the buildup in the materials that go on there. Every month, we have a pressure washing and a steam cleaning team that comes through and goes through the exterior, covering the awnings, the concrete, the building, the stucco, as well as the full drive-through lane. Our restaurants are typically painted every 5 years as needed. In the event of damage, and talking through our maintenance team and some of our technicians, we have an in-house paint department that the standing order is always corner to corner. We don't do touch-up paints. So every wall, every face will be completely painted in the event that it needs to be done. As far as, like Greg mentioned, this is a flagship restaurant. Every restaurant is equally important to us, but the amount of eyes that are going to be on here from our executive team, as well as the normal associates that are working within the restaurant, as well as the hundreds of corporate support associates that are going to be at the office walking over to the restaurant for their meals. And everyone within the company is empowered to do anything for the customer and the customer experience at any point in time. So we're going to have all of these eyes and the ability to report any maintenance issues, anything that needs to get done. And with our in-house departments between maintenance, service, operations, our landscaping team, our pest control team, we'll have qualified eyes that will be there and report any issues and jump on it and make sure it gets taken care of. So.
Thank you, Jeff. Also, just to point out,
you also added a base.
we did. We added a base to the restaurant. That's included. It's a brick base, meeting the code requirement. That modification of standards has gone. In-N-Out Burger does not do franchises. They own all of their real estate. They own all of their buildings. This isn't for them cutting corners. This is about quality. In regards to modification of standards number 12, I just want to point out that it does not remove the base requirement for brick walls. It will not remove the base requirement for anything fronting onto Goose Creek Bypass or visible from Goose Creek. It only removes or requests removal of base requirements from just pure stucco walls. So those stucco walls that we're talking about that would not have a base requirement on the office would be walls such as coming in from the parking lot area here. This is an accent wall behind the water fountain. You see that this little wall here that has stucco coming all the way to the ground would not have a base. This does have a base here. This is a stucco element. This is a stucco element here. And so there are portions of the building that don't have a base. We're not talking about the entire building, just some aspects of it. And so we're asking for a little flexibility on number 12, just for stucco walls. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion for approval for modification of standards number 10 by Commissioner Franks, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Any further discussion? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. And that's a motion for approval. Okay, modification of standards number 11 is a request to allow stucco as a primary material for the office building type. Again, on this one, staff recommends disapproval. Is there a motion for this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
So we have a motion for approval by Commissioner Orr and a proper second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and this motion passes. Modification of standards number 12, a request to remove the requirement of a defined base for the office building type. The applicant is requesting to limit the removal of a base to the portions that have stucco treatment. And on this one, staff recommends disapproval. Is there a motion for this item?
Recommend approval.
And a second?
Second?
We have a second by Commissioner Franks. Any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 13 is a request to increase front yard fencing maximum height to 6 feet. Staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 13. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Allen and a second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Modification of standards number 14 is a request to remove required masonry columns for the commercial fencing. Staff recommends approval of modification of standards number 14. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. So we've got affirmative motions on all modifications of standards. We will go back to the original main motion was a recommendation of approval to Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner Franks. We've got the results of those 14 modification of standards, which will roll back into this main motion. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
It's 3 hours in. You gonna plan for the restaurant break?
We got 3 more, let's go.
Okay. Item number 17. Consideration of ordinance 2024-06, an ordinance to rezone 26.27 acres from planned PD 0.71 district to residential 1, R1 district for the property located south of the intersection of Crossway Drive and Castlewood Drive at 2208 Crossway Drive. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing to rezone 26.27 acres from planned PD 0.71 district to residential 1, R1. This property was formerly part of the Tuckaway PUD subdivision and is being removed with ordinance 2024-07 and resolution 2024-09, which are also on the agenda this evening. Envision Franklin places the subject parcel into the single-family design concept. The proposed zoning of R1 maintains the larger lots of the surrounding neighborhoods, with any new future lots required to be a minimum of just under 1 acre in size, with the minimum being 30,000 square feet. Just as a project consideration, any future subdivision of this parcel under R1 zoning would be required to submit a plat to the Planning Commission for approval. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 2024-06. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got some people that wish to speak. These will be items 17, 18, and 19 are all the same project. So is Melissa Littich? Is Melissa still here? Melissa?
Hello, I'm Melissa Liddick. I live at 2526 St. James Drive. My home is directly behind the existing property that's on Tuckaway Farms, the house that they're trying to keep. The last city meeting I was at, you all indicated that this church property that they're proposing violates many of the requirements of Envision Franklin, and I was frankly stunned that you allowed that to continue forward. Being is that my neighborhood is zoned Williamson County only, not City of Franklin. I do not feel like the city has the residents of my neighborhood's best interests in mind when they're allowing this to go forward. In looking at the proposal on the city website, it's changed significantly since the last time that I saw the map of this. And from what I can see on there, they're virtually using every inch of space of that property that's behind my house. This tract of land is very narrow. There's not a lot of space between my property and the existing home. They're proposing an adult education center there, along with a huge outdoor pavilion. And I can throw a rock from the back of my yard and hit where they're proposing these things. I'm very concerned about the noise. I'm very concerned about having a road now on the front and the back of my house. And I'm very concerned about the hundreds of parking spaces and the number of people that they're actually planning on having on this property. This isn't on the front of a main road. This is back in the back of a neighborhood. This is a quiet neighborhood, and you're going to ruin it.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jay Shield. I live at 2530 St. James Drive, and I just want to echo her sentiments exactly. I'm going to have a road in my backyard. I'm not sure what the lighting's going to be like. I'm going to have a parking lot in my backyard. The congestion, not sure. The access, it's really concerning. And I just wanted to be here to let you all know that. So hopefully this could be fixed. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. I think she hit everything possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments on this item? Is there someone here representing the applicant?
Hi, my name is Greg Gamble, representing the applicant, the Cross family, for the rezoning of this property. If you would like for me to talk a little bit about the church's plan now, I'm happy to. Otherwise, I'll wait till the development plan.
Okay.
Wait.
Thank you.
Just wait. Okay, so this is for an ordinance to rezone the 26.27 acres. So is there a motion for this item?
Move for approval.
Recommendation to the
To
board.
Board Mayor of Alderman.
Second.
So we have a motion for recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Alderman by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any further discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 18 is a consideration of ordinance 2024-07, an ordinance to rezone 25.64 acres from planned PD 0.71 to planned PD 120,000 district for the property listed at 1190 Lewisburg Pike. This is the Tuckaway PUD subdivision. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing to rezone 26.27 acres from planned PD 0.71 district to, I'm sorry, that should be 25.64 acres, to planned PD 120,000 district to accommodate the proposed revision to the Tuckaway PUD subdivision. Envision Franklin places the property into the single-family design concept, which allows for institutional uses such as churches. Envision Franklin provides a special consideration for institutional uses at this specific location, which states development should be designed in a manner which complements the rural character of this corridor and its surrounding neighborhoods. Institutional uses should maintain a minimum front setback of 200 feet to preserve the rural and pastoral view sheds along Lewisburg Pike, and buildings should maintain a height of 2 stories or less. Adaptive reuse of existing dwellings for institutional uses may be appropriate when accompanied by a development plan. The proposed zoning is consistent with the recommendations and the special consideration given to this property by Envision Franklin. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 2024-07. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Okay, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? This is, again, a rezoning of an additional part of this. Are there any other public comments?
Melissa Liddick, 2526 St. James Drive. In regards to this, I question why this property needs 120,000 square feet. This is larger than the entirety of the In-N-Out property that was just proposed, which I find kind of ridiculous. This is almost akin to the size of a Target that you're putting behind our houses. And I honestly find it ridiculous. It's going to bring pollution, it's going to bring noise, it's going to bring crime, it's going to bring disruption to our neighborhood. The road is going to be dangerous for our children and pets. We've asked the church many times how many people they're planning on having on this campus. They have not been forthcoming in their answers, and from the judging by the number of parking spaces and the square footage on here, it's hundreds if not thousands of people that will be on this property on a regular basis. I'm very concerned about all the buildings that they have on there. They have 3 buildings that are labeled as education or like teaching spaces. Are they gonna have a school there? Are they gonna have a daycare? We're already flanked on one side by a school and a daycare. There's already multiple churches on this road. Traffic is horrible. Oftentimes, it backs up past our neighborhood both directions and we cannot get in and out. We cannot sustain more churches and more people, thousands on this road and in this area. I urge you to keep this residential and keep the neighborhood that's already proposed there going.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Ms. Gamble.
Hi, yes, again, my name is Greg Gamble, representing Fellowship Bible Church, and we believe that the development plan, the plan district is the most appropriate rezoning for this property. It's actually already zoned plan district. We are just changing the PUD. This plan district allows us to commit to the city of Franklin the total building square footage, the uses. We are not proposing a school. We're not proposing a daycare. It allows us to commit to the city the building setbacks off the property lines. And we believe that this development plan and plan district approach is the appropriate for this particular property. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is for an ordinance to rezone. So is there a motion? We're looking for a motion to recommend approval.
Move for approval recommendation of BOMA.
Second.
So we have a recommendation of approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Comment, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it will come as no surprise, but I have to vote against this, and I've just said a prayer. Lord, protect my soul. That is not against the spreading of the gospel in any way. I just do not believe that this is the site for this church, and I've prayed the Lord to find another place for the location of this church. The proliferation of churches along this area of Lewisburg Pike is it's more than you would ever imagine. I drive this route, I told you guys, every Sunday to go to church, and it's beyond belief. And if you've never done it and you have a chance, take some time off from church somewhere between 10, 15 and 11 o'clock and try to drive through here. I'm surprised. I don't know if have been accidents, but it is ridiculous. And so I can't support it. It has become pretty kind of hazardous, to be honest with you. And so I pray that they find another. I just don't think this is the place for it, and especially this larger church. And I know it's going to grow. This church is going to grow in the membership. It's just not the place for it. And so I will have to. Great design and all of that. I just cannot. And so I'm going to start now by voting no, and that's why.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Any other comments or questions or discussion? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
This motion passes. Item number 19, consideration of Resolution 2024-09, a resolution approving a revised development plan for Tuckaway PUD subdivision with one modification of development standards for connectivity for the property located west of Lewisburg Pike and north of St. James Drive, located at 1190 Lewisburg Pike. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing a revision to the Tuckaway PUD subdivision development plan to allow for institutional uses and the construction of a new church campus. The Tuckaway PUD was previously approved in March of 2021 and had 37 single-family residential lots on 52 acres. This revision proposes changing the boundaries of the PUD and removing all residential use from the property. Additionally, it entitles the property to 120,000 square feet of institutional space. The envisioned Franklin land use plan places the subject property into the single-family design concept, which does allow for institutional uses such as churches. The plan as proposed maintains the 200-foot setback from Lewisburg Pike and repurposes the existing house for administrative purposes. The plan is in two phases, and the proposed architecture is a two-story scale and complements the rural nature of the area. The plan overall meets the guiding principles of Envision Franklin and the specific notes about the special consideration for the single-family design concept. This time, there is only one modification of standard request, and that is to remove the required southern vehicular connection to the parcel to the south. Section 9.5.3A of the ordinance states that internal vehicular circulation shall be designed to provide cross-access to each adjacent property. Staff supports extending connectivity wherever possible to plan for future road network connections as a way to help disperse traffic throughout an area and provide multiple connection points for emergency services. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 1. Overall, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to BOMA to approve Resolution 2024-09 with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Are there any comments from the public on this item?
I just ask again, Jay Shield.
Come to the lectern and give us your name and
I just ask that there is no connectivity off of St. James Drive into the church. So I just wanted to put that on record because the roads, that road, St. James Drive's not built for traffic going different directions. It's just not, there's no sidewalks, there's ditches. It's not meant for that. So I just wanted to put that on record that there's no connectivity to that church through St. James Drive. Thank you.
thank you. Any other public comments? Not, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Applicant, do you have any further comments?
Yes, hi again, Greg Gamble, representing Fellowship Bible Church. I just want to point out a couple of things regarding the master plan. First, we're maintaining a 200-foot setback off of Lewisburg Pike. That's the closest point to this road. That's the 200 feet. This is much more significant. We're keeping the existing house that's on the property and converting that to church offices. So when you drive by Lewisburg and you see the house, we're not going to be in front of the existing house. This drive that is along the southern property boundary will be a 16-foot wide exit-only path. All of the traffic coming in will be to the north and the rear to the parking lot. There will be 2 exits out. You can either exit on the north side or exit on the south side, but that is an exit-only road. The closest building is 75 feet to the southern property line and then 125 feet to the southern property line in this location. All of our parking lot lights will be pointed to the north into the parking lot to limit any exposure to the south. On the previous PUD that was approved, Planning Commission and the Board and Aldermen both supported a modification of standards to not connect to the south to this neighborhood. To be consistent with that, we are asking for that same modification of standards tonight. Thank you.
I'm going to speak a little louder, Mac.
We're leaving the existing tree lines that are along here, but we also want to add some additional evergreen screens.
tree. It's one tree.
But we want to add some additional plantings along the edge as well.
That's important.
I think so too.
Okay. Okay. This is another item that has a modification of standards associated with it, so we need a main motion with a second, and then we'll deal with the modification of standards. So is there a motion for this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That's recommendation to BOMA. We have a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Franks, and a second by Commissioner Orr. And so we have a proper motion and second. We'll proceed to modification of standards number 1, request to remove the required southern vehicular connection. In this case, staff recommends disapproval of the modification of standards. So do we have a motion for this item?
Move to
Approved.
Second.
A motion to approve
The removal.
the removal of the requirement to
That's what they
provide
had, that's what we
connection.
had before, on the last one.
That's a motion to approve the requested modification by Commissioner Franks. A second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any further discussion on this item?
And as before, I will always vote against any removal of
Any
connectivity.
removal?
Yes.
Okay. Any other Okay, by roll call, Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks.
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. So we'll go back to our main motion recommending approval to BOMA, including the recommendation to remove the requirement for connectivity to the south. We have that motion made by Commissioner Franks and seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any additional discussion on this item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. Okay, the next item is item number 23. This is a consideration of ordinance 2023-44, an ordinance to amend several chapters of the Franklin zoning ordinance regarding frontages, building types, performance agreements, and overlay zoning districts. I'll turn it over for staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to each of you for still being here tonight so late. I'll try to make this quick. In December, an Envision Franklin Plan amendment called the Margin District on Columbia Avenue was approved, resulting in a need to update the zoning ordinance for building height along part of the Columbia Avenue Overlay District to reflect that plan amendment. Feedback from the January Joint Conceptual Workshop was included in the text amendment for your consideration, and we'll be bringing forward a larger update this summer. In the meantime, we have a few other small items in with this text amendment, including the naming convention for certificates of use and occupancy resulting from the recent municipal code update, the timeframes for performance agreement extensions, and open space along scenic corridor overlay districts, and courtyard open space designs and new development. Staff recommends approval.
Great. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item?
Oh, no.
What's our wait, Chair?
Sorry. Come on, Chair. No. Okay. I know it's late. Good evening. I know it's late. My name is Devin McClendon. I'm the president of NAI Nashville, and I serve as the owner representative for what we're now beginning to call the Margin District. So I'm here tonight to speak for approval of the text amendment with a requested change. You have a map in front of you. That map defines two areas. The larger area is obviously from Church Street. It's the 700 and the 800 block. So
Blackburn.
Blackburn. The property that we had acquired at the time of our proposed Envision Franklin amendment, which was, I believe, submitted in September, included only the property northward to the Handy Hardware. During that period, we were able to acquire the property known as Bobby's Automotive. That's just hop one piece. We've since put under contract the property known as the Woodard property, which is owned by the family of former Mayor Ed Woodard. Greg Woodard is now the owner of it. And so it adds those two properties to our kind of entire project. So what we're asking you to do is support staff's recommended text changes related to this area with the addition of these two properties. So the way this text amendment was written, and staff can probably chime in at some point, was written to come like 250 or so feet south of Church Street. So you have both Jerry Pewett's parcel at Church Street, which is about 150 feet, and then ours begins thereafter. So we would simply ask that you bring that all the way up as far as you're comfortable doing. Our property is in that inner circle, and then to the north, Jerry Pewett, who's here and will probably speak. And then the only other one on the 700-800 block is the bank, which is brand new. And they've, kind of said we're good with whatever. And I'm happy to answer questions. I'm sorry, it's kind of a technical thing.
Okay, thank you. Other public comments? Yes, sir.
It is late, and I appreciate all y'all being here. I've been here since 7. I can't imagine what y'all have been dealing with. So anyway, for the record, my name is Jerry Pewett, and as trustee, I'm here representing the property at 705 Columbia Avenue. Presently, the tenant on this property is the Lube Corner and Bobby's Automotive. My property is contiguous to the property owned by the developer of the Margin District and is in the same block as the Handy Hardware building. The Pewett family has owned property on Columbia Avenue for over 50 years. During this 50-plus years, I have seen many changes to Columbia Avenue. I was executive vice president of Franklin Synergy Bank when we built the bank building there on the west side of Columbia Avenue. But also I was 10 years old when I was washing tires at my father's service station back in '65. In my opinion, one of the main functions of this group is to cast the vision for what Franklin can be. And under your guidance over the last many months, the Margin District project is on the brink of change that will be remembered by many generations as a major contribution to the quality of life in Franklin. And I applaud you for that. As a retired lifetime banker in Franklin, I applaud the new revenue that we will receive and be generated by your vision. And Columbia Avenue has been a little slower to develop than I think many of us would have hoped for. Therefore, due to the fact that the envisioned Franklin changes were approved in December, due to the fact that my property is contiguous to the property owned by the developer of the Margin project, due to the fact that my property is in the same block as Handy Hardware, a centerpiece of the Margin project, and due to the fact that my property is the last property in the 700 block that can be developed, I respectfully ask that you include that property at 705 Columbia Avenue in your proposed edit to the zoning code so that it will be in alignment with Envision Franklin changes that were approved in December.
Can I ask the question, in other words, you're just saying from Church Street south, is that it?
I have that property that is on the north side. Yeah, Church Street, yes. Margie has a piece of property, and I'm not representing, that's the L-shaped. I've got the L-shaped property.
Oh, okay.
That one right there, yes. That property there.
Which one?
And then you see south to me is the property that
They're
the
talking about.
developers have, okay? And so I'm just asking that we continue all the way north to Church Street. Yes, the
Okay.
same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need
Does anybody
So
have-
this includes the lubrication corner?
It does. It does. And there's a small part of it that I rent now to Bobby.
Okay.
But they were wanting to move it close, further on up that way, so you're just saying just move it all the way to.
Come on to me.
All the
Yeah,
way to
let's have
church.
consistency in all of that. Well, yes, please.
Is this something we can do, staff, at this time?
That's confusing.
Those, or we have to?
Envision Franklin is more general in nature, and so this general area is called out, and the zoning ordinance really hones in on the details and specifies the standards for it. So it is something that the commission could consider as part of your motion to recommend to the BOMA. Yes.
Okay. Other public comments? John, you good? You good? Okay. So,
We need to modify it. Yeah.
so do we need to modify the language in the ordinance, or?
I mean, yeah, you'll have to make a motion to approve and then I guess an amendment to add on the areas that you just heard.
Because I
Okay.
don't see that.
So we'll start with a motion.
Right.
So someone want to make a motion on this one?
Move for approval recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
Second.
Question?
So we have a motion that recommends approval to the Board of Mayor and Alderman by Commissioner Orr and seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Yes.
So my question, so the piece of property that we're calling the L shape, obviously it's late and I'm confused because I don't see that L shape on this drawing that I have before me. So it's this piece here? That's what we're looking at?
It's there, but it's just not that.
Because it doesn't look like that.
It just isn't showing
goes all the way
the
to church.
parcel lines on this handout that you received. So this drawing exhibit on the screen is the plan amendment request from December. So it includes this blue boundary that you see here that includes those 5
Okay.
tracts of land.
So basically now we're asking to amend to go from Church Street to Blackburn, to include the entire, those blocks, all the way from
No,
Church
it
Street.
would still be
South to
100
Blackburn, is that what we're asking,
It
we're
still
being
would
asked
be
to do?
100 feet north of Blackburn, right?
There's been 2 different requests on the floor tonight. One is to include these 2 parcels that are just north of the blue boundary. And then a second request to include this L-shaped track that goes up to Church Street. And the impact of that change is going from allowing 2 stories for buildings to 3.5 stories for buildings.
I understand that, but if we were setting the boundaries, okay? We're saying from Church Street down to Blackburn Street,
Not
right?
all the
Correct?
way
If you
down
look
to
at
Blackburn Street.
Except for that corner,
100 feet
except for the
north of
cutout of the
Blackburn.
corner. Okay, that's all I need, thank you.
So this
Gotcha.
drawing is wrong.
All right. Help me, Lord Jesus.
Too much red.
Yes.
So we would not include the bank is on the corner of Blackburn and Columbia? Is that?
Is that right? That is right.
There is, the Synergy Bank building is,
You see, it's on there.
not Synergy. Renaissance, thank you.
Renaissance Bank.
Renaissance Bank, it's getting late. The Renaissance Bank is at the corner of Blackburn Street and Columbia Avenue.
And
It's
new-
not
and
included in
new.
the original request for the plan amendment that you all considered in December, and it hasn't been requested tonight either.
That's
So
cut
it's
out in this
on
cut.
here by error then.
So there's 2 cutouts.
I'm not sure what the red boundary is on this exhibit, but on the
think it's all-
exhibit.
I think it's all
Just
there.
showing you the boundaries of
The blocks.
some of what was included. The Vision Franklin, it goes from 5 Points all the way down to Folks.
Okay.
We did not submit a project in September with our application. It was the
I got
request to change in Vision Franklin.
Okay.
Sorry.
So it's already in there. We don't have to add that.
So are we talking about from Blackburn all the way to church and everything in between?
No, it does not.
Mr. Chair, the text amendment is based on the final documents that were submitted from the plan amendment in December, which includes an area that's 100 feet north of Blackburn Street to 240 feet south of Church Street that incorporates this blue boundary that you see on the screen with these 5 properties that contain the owner affidavit for the plan amendment. The requests on the floor are to move that north, I believe, all the way up to Church Street.
We wouldn't change the southern.
Oh, yeah, can you not substitute the two?
What?
Distances?
Well,
The 100 or the 240?
We can entertain a motion to amend. We've got a motion to
Amend.
recommend approval.
No,
And we can amend that motion to include the portion of the land going north. Does it need to go all the way to Church Street, or are we
Yes.
doing the L shape?
Just go all the way to Church Street and make it. Yes. Let that be simple. Emily, advisors?
All the way to church.
If it's too confusing, you can also defer it.
There's one request that has been to include the 2 parcels north of the blue boundary, and an additional request to include the L-shaped parcel that goes up to Church Street. So you could make an amendment, if you so desire, to amend the text amendment to go up all the way to Church Street. Or if you would like further information from staff, we can provide updated maps and include this on your next agenda. You could defer this.
Okay,
But I think we've outlined what the requests are tonight.
yeah,
So we
okay.
could just do that.
So,
Yes.
So,
Well,
the men,
Just add the 2 parcels.
we just
Yeah,
add
let's
the,
add
let's
the-
just add
let's
the
add the-
parcels.
Yes.
yeah.
So to be clear, if you add the 2 parcels, you'd be going up to this line that you see on the screen,
Right.
which is about 150 feet south of Church Street.
That's 705, I believe the address was given to us was 705 Columbia. That was 705.
the L-shaped property.
Right, that's 705 Columbia
So he
Avenue.
wants that too, so it's 3 parcels.
It's 3 parcels.
3
And then
parcels
2 to the south,
up to Church.
right. And then 2 parcels to the south. Should we put the addresses on
No,
it?
don't say south.
Oh,
Nobody's
no,
asking for
I'm
that.
sorry.
We're not asking.
Never mind.
okay, so we've got
And then
3
2 parcels
parcels.
to the south.
Is that third parcel then the parcel, the L-shaped parcel that goes up to church?
Yes.
Is that corner piece a separate parcel?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
So we could deal with it just by addressing the 3 parcels that make up the first 2 immediately north of where we started, adding the L-shaped lot, the third parcel
Right.
above,
Right.
to puts us up to Church Street, but excludes the building on the corner. Is there someone that would like to make a motion to approve,
So,
to
so
amend?
moved. Motion to move as,
Motion to amend?
as outlined.
What do you want?
To
Oh, you
amend,
just
to
need to
include,
keep it with
to
the
include
grid on the
705, 705 Columbia
They
Avenue.
don't have to go to 4 store,
But there's some
Is that
other.
not proper?
No, you're right. I like that you're doing the addresses because that's, I think, gonna be a little clearer.
The other 2 addresses are 713 and 717.
Thank you.
Move to amend to include 705 Columbia Avenue, 713,
Does that take
and
care of the other piece?
717 Columbia Avenue.
Second.
Okay.
So we have a motion to amend the original motion by adding the parcels
705.
identified by
Right.
705, 713, and 717 Columbia Avenue.
Okay.
And there was a
Okay.
motion, there was a motion to amend by Commissioner Allen. In a second,
Second.
Yes.
and a second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on that?
I hope not.
So we're voting on the amendment. Does that become the main motion? We vote, okay. So this is a motion to amend.
Right, so take that
So
vote
we'll-
first.
We'll clear that motion. Is there any further discussion on that? Motion to amend to add 705, 713, and 717. By roll call, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. We now have amended our original motion, which is to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, now including those 3 additional parcels. That's a motion that was made by Commissioner Orr and seconded by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any further discussion on that item? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Mr. Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And that motion passes. Okay. Is there any other business?
Seriously, we finished.
Would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
So Mr. Orr, Commissioner Orr made the motion to adjourn. And Commissioner Harrison.
Second.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Mr. Lindsey, yes. Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.